Chapter 494. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yen are settled down in the Qingfeng courtyard. Although the courtyard was very big, there were not many people living in it. Other than the Beast King, White Ape, the guards, and Ji Tianxing, there were only 20 servants and maids. As a result, the Qingfeng courtyard was very quiet and peaceful. It was very suitable for living and cultivation. The heaven and earth spirit qi in the central state was incomparably dense, and a powerful spirit gathering formation was set up in the Qingfeng courtyard. Everyone lived in the Qingfeng courtyard, and their cultivation speed was faster than in the sky-bearing sect. Unknowingly, 4 days passed in a flash. After 4 days of recuperation, Ji Tianxing and the other two recovered their strength and returned to their peak state. At the same time, Ji Tianxing gradually learned about the central state city. The central state was located in the center of the Tian-Xian continent. It was very vast and rich in resources. In the vast central state, there were all kinds of races living. There were at least tens of thousands of cities. The southern region was under the jurisdiction of the human imperial court. In those cities and villages, the people living there were basically humans. There were very few foreign races. The eastern region was naturally under the jurisdiction of the water race imperial court. The western region was undoubtedly the territory of the demon race imperial court. And the central state city was located in the center of the central state. It was also the center of the entire Tian-Xian continent. It was a truly peaceful and neutral land. No matter what race they were, they could live in the central state city. As long as they did not violate the laws of the central state city, they would not be in any danger. On the surface, the central state city was under the jurisdiction of the city lord's mansion, but everyone in the city knew that the monarch's mansion was the master of the city. In fact, the entire central state was under the jurisdiction of the monarch's mansion. If the monarch's mansion had any orders or announcements, the various imperial courts would not dare to neglect or violate them. In short, the central state city was worthy of being the #1 sacred city in the Tian-Xian continent. Its status was extraordinary and profound. On the morning of the 5th day, the three of them left the Qingfeng courtyard and strolled around the city. The Beast King wanted to send White Ape with them as a guide to help them familiarize themselves with the situation in the city. However, Ji Tianxing had other plans, so he rejected the Beast King's good intentions. He brought Ji Ku and Yen out of Qingfeng courtyard. He asked passers-by about the location of the Forest of Divine Monuments and rushed there. This was because he was still thinking about the imperial residence and wanted to personally go to the Forest of Divine Monuments to take a look. The three of them strolled around at a leisurely pace. As they felt the great vicissitudes of Central State City's atmosphere and strange and variegated scenery, their moods also became much more relaxed. 4 hours later, Ji Tianxing and the other two arrived at the vicinity of the Divine Steel Forest. The Forest of Divine Steels was located near the plaza in the middle of the city. It was a forest of steels with a radius of several thousand meters. In the forest of steels that looked like a cemetery, there were tens of thousands of tall steels. Most of the stone tablets had been eroded by the passage of time, and the words on them were somewhat blurred. Every stone tablet was inscribed with the name and honorific title of a soul refinement realm expert. It also recorded the achievements and glory of that person. Ji Tianxing observed for a moment and discovered that the soul refinement realm experts recorded on the 10,000 divine steels came from various races. And these soul refinement realm experts all came from the imperial residence. He had heard from the Beast King that as long as the imperial prince of the imperial residence reached the soul refinement realm and obtained the imperial rank honorific title, he would be qualified to set up a divine steel here. The tens of thousands of divine steels in the Forest of Divine Monuments meant that the imperial residence had cultivated tens of thousands of soul refinement realm experts in the past thousands of years. Ji Ku and Yen also understood this point, so they followed Ji Tianxing's footsteps and walked into the depths of the Forest of Divine Monuments, looking at the various divine steels along the way. After an hour, Ji Tianxing and the other two passed through the Forest of Divine Monuments and walked to the end of the Black Stone Road. At the end of the road in front of the three of them, there stood a majestic door that was about 100 meters wide and 1,000 meters tall. The door was made of mysterious black stone. Even after thousands of years of wind and rain, it was still indestructible and exuded an ancient and powerful aura. There was no door at the entrance, and it was sealed by a colorful light barrier. It was obviously a super large array. Only people who knew how to break it or had the corresponding token could enter and exit the door. Above the majestic door, on the ancient and wide lintel, there were 4 large words carved in bold calligraphy. Emperor of all ages. When Ji Tianxing saw the 4 large words, he immediately understood that this simple and powerful black door was the entrance to the imperial residence. After passing through the barrier formation that sealed the door, one could enter the imperial residence. He used his spiritual sense to carefully investigate the barrier formation and found that the grade of this formation was far beyond the heavenly origin grade. It was incomparably mysterious and complex. With his master-level array attainments, he could not see through the barrier formation at all. He could not even see the veins of the formation. The truth was just as the Beast King said. There was only one barrier formation at the entrance of the imperial residence. There was no need for guards at all. Just as Ji Tianxing looked up to size up the barrier formation, light footsteps came from behind him, and there was a voice full of surprise. Ji Tianxing? Ji Tianxing came back to his senses and hurriedly turned his head to look behind him. He saw a handsome young man in a golden robe with a noble temperament walking towards him. The handsome young man with a dignified appearance was none other than the Son of Heaven, Long Yunxiao, whom he had not seen for a long time. Long Yunxiao stepped in front of Ji Tianxing and asked with a puzzled look, Ji Tianxing? You actually came to the central province? What are you doing here? Ji Tianxing looked at him indifferently and said calmly, This is the entrance to the imperial residence. What do you think I can do here? Long Yunxiao immediately raised his eyebrows and said in a playful tone, Ji Tianxing, you can't be telling me that you want to enter the imperial residence and become the emperor, right? Why not? Ji Tianxing looked at him expressionlessly and exuded a confident and calm aura. Long Yunxiao sized him up and couldn't help but smile. He nodded and said, I haven't seen you for 5 months, and you've actually reached the half-step heaven's origin stage. You've indeed improved very quickly. However, I have to remind you of something. In another month, I will choose a heavenly concubine in the Apocalypse Tower and announce it to the world. Ji Tianxing said indifferently, Of course, I won't forget such an important matter. Long Yunxiao, I will definitely climb up the Apocalypse Tower and have a fair battle with you. I will defeat you in front of all the powerful cultivators in the world. I hope you still remember what you said before. After I defeat you, I won't force Yunyao to become a heavenly concubine. Long Yunxiao's eyes became even more playful. He nodded and said, I'm a man of my words. I won't go back on my words. If you can really defeat me, I will voluntarily withdraw and not pester Yunyao anymore. Moreover, don't you want to enter the imperial residence? Coincidentally, I have already entered the imperial residence 2 years ago and became the 53rd emperor. If you can defeat me, you can pass the test of the imperial residence and become the new emperor. There will be one more later. Brothers, sorry to keep you waiting. Chapter 495. Upon hearing Long Yunxiao's words, Ji Tianxing realized that he had become a Thearcha's son. His eyes lit up as he smiled playfully. He said to Long Yunxiao, Hee, if that's the case, I have to thank you. Since we are going to have a duel at the Apocalypse Tower in a month's time, I will send a letter to the Imperial Palace and challenge you. This is the best of both worlds, which is exactly what I want. Long Yunxiao frowned and said proudly, Ji Tianxing, you are very confident, but you are overconfident. Although you have improved a lot in the past 5 months, you are still just a half step to ethereal stage cultivator. I would like to see if you can break through the shackles of ethereal stage in a month's time. Not long ago, I had reached the 2nd level of the sky origin stage. When we duel at the Apocalypse Tower in a month's time, I will not show you any mercy. You don't even have the slightest hope of winning. Long Yunxiao's expression and tone were even more confident than Ji Tianxing's, as if he was determined to win. Ji Tianxing glanced at him and said coldly, It is too early for you to say that. Let's duel in a month's time. All right, it's a deal. Long Yunxiao nodded and walked past him to the entrance of the imperial palace. However, when he reached the entrance, he stopped in his tracks. He turned around and looked at Ji Tianxing. He smiled and said playfully, "By the way, I have something to tell you. A month ago, Yun Yao entered the imperial palace and became the 55th Thearcha's son. She is now cultivating in the imperial palace. I will take good care of her. Don't worry." After that, Long Yunxiao took out the Thearcha's token from his infinite space ring and walked through the door. He disappeared after passing through the colorful barrier. Ji Tianxing furrowed his brows and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He clenched his fists tightly in his sleeves. Although he clearly knew that Long Yunxiao was definitely deliberately provoking him and infuriating him. However, he hadn't seen Yun Yao for a few months and didn't know how Yun Yao was doing recently. He was too worried and concerned about Yun Yao, so it was impossible for him to remain indifferent. Of course, he was furious. Ji Ku and Yen were also angered by Ji Tianxing's words and attitude. They hurriedly opened their mouths to comfort Ji Tianxing. Yen said angrily, "Senior brother Tianxing, don't listen to Long Yunxiao's nonsense. He's just trying to provoke you. He's too bad." Ji Ku also comforted him. "Brother Tianxing, you know eldest senior sister's nature better than we do. You should believe that eldest senior sister will definitely not have a good impression of Long Yunxiao." Yen hurriedly nodded in agreement. "Yes, we have to believe in eldest senior sister. She definitely won't be nice to Long Yunxiao." In a moment, Ji Tianxing suppressed the anger in his heart and calmed down. He looked at Ji Ku and Yen. Seeing their concerned expressions, he smiled and said, "It's okay. You don't have to persuade me. I know what I'm doing. If eldest senior sister could accept Long Yunxiao, she would have accepted him a few years ago. Why would she leave Zhongzhou and go to the Sky Pillar sect? Long Yunxiao's provocation means that he can't get close to eldest senior sister for the time being. Since eldest senior sister has already entered the Monarch Mansion, I have to enter the Monarch Mansion as soon as possible to see her again." Speaking of this, he looked at the entrance of the Monarch Mansion with burning eyes and said in a sonorous tone, "1 month later, I will defeat Long Yunxiao at the Apocalypse Pagoda no matter what." Seeing that he wasn't angered and was even more determined, Ji Ku and Yen both smiled. Yen clenched her fists and said with determination, "Senior brother Tianxing, I believe that you can defeat that despicable Long Yunxiao." Ji Ku also said with anticipation, "Brother Tianxing, you can only win the battle at the Apocalypse Pagoda. After you defeat Long Yunxiao, not only will you make him withdraw, but you will also become famous and enter the Monarch Mansion. You will become a noble emperor. This is killing 3 birds with 1 stone." "Yes, of course." Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. Then he turned around and left with Ji Ku and Yen. After the 3 of them left the Forest of Divine Monuments, they returned to the Qingfeng courtyard. Ji Tianxing had made up his mind. In the next month, he would cultivate in seclusion and do everything he could to break through to the ethereal realm. The battle at the Apocalypse Pagoda was very important. He would not lose, and he couldn't lose. An hour later, the 3 of them were walking on a bustling street in the city. Suddenly, they heard a commotion in front of them. The bustling crowd on the street immediately parted to both sides and moved to the side of the road. Ji Tianxing, Ji Ku, and Yen were walking in the middle of the street when they saw the crowd parting. The 3 of them were confused as they looked at the empty street in front of them. At the end of the street, there was a large group of people walking toward them with a majestic aura. It was a group of about 200 guards of honor. They looked majestic and luxurious. They looked even more majestic than the emperor when he went on an inspection tour. There were 16 Primal Core Realm elites in black armor. They were so tall that they didn't look like humans. They were riding on huge white dragon colts and were leading the way for the group. Behind the 16 white dragon steeds, there were more than 100 demon clan guards who were as tall and sturdy as iron towers. Although they were more than 1,000 steps away, Ji Tianxing could feel the ferocious and murderous aura that the demon guards were emitting. In the middle of the group of demon guards was an extremely luxurious emperor's chariot. It was dazzling with golden light. The emperor's chariot was like a small moving palace. It had a radius of 10 meters. It was made of heavenly fire true gold and was inlaid with a dazzling array of precious gems and spiritual jades. On the round canopy of the emperor's chariot, there were countless chains of pearls and gems hanging down. They covered the inside of the emperor's chariot like a curtain, making it hazy and unreal. Around the emperor's chariot, there were more than 60 beautiful foreign race women. Some were holding jade rui, some were carrying flower baskets, and some were carrying pipa and musical instruments. All in all, this luxurious and magnificent non-humankind troupe almost filled up the entire street. The people on the street all stood on the side of the street and looked up at the guards of honor. Their faces were full of awe and excitement. Ji Tianxing and the other two came back to their senses. They also walked to the side of the street and stood still, silently watching the guards of honor as they walked over. At this time, many warriors and commoners around the three of them were also discussing in low voices. That seems to be the demon race's Kunwu prince. What a grand display! Don't you know? Kunwu prince entered the emperor's mansion 2 years ago and became the noble emperor's son. It's actually the emperor's son? Oh my god, this is the first time I've seen the legendary emperor's son. He's really noble and sacred. The 6th chapter has arrived. Sorry for the long wait. These few days, little he will try to adjust the chapters as much as possible and try to update all the chapters at once at 10 a.m. every day. Thank you for your support and understanding. Chapter 496. Ji Ku and Yen could understand Ji Tianxing's mood. However, Ji Ku said with a worried face, "Brother Tianxing, there are too many people here. I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to sneak into the honor guard." Ji Tianxing shook his head and explained to her, "Ku, don't worry. I won't follow Kunwu's honor guard here. I'll go to the Forest of Divine Monuments first. When the entrance of the Monarch Mansion opens, I'll take the opportunity to sneak into the honor guard. No one is near the Forest of Divine Monuments. As long as I'm careful, I won't be discovered." Yen said with a worried face, "Senior brother Tianxing, even if you can sneak into the Monarch Mansion, it's a mysterious and powerful holy land. I'm afraid your whereabouts will be exposed soon." Ji Tianxing frowned and said in a deep voice, "Now is a great opportunity. If I miss this opportunity, I don't know how many days I'll have to wait. After I sneak into the Monarch Mansion, I'll act according to the circumstances. Don't worry." Ji Ku was still a little worried and asked, "Brother Tianxing, even if you can sneak into the Monarch Mansion, how are you going to get out?" Ji Tianxing already had a plan and explained, "I'll find senior sister. She will definitely have a way to send me out of the Monarch Mansion." At this time, Yen suddenly thought of something and quickly took out a dark golden talisman from her space ring and handed it to him. "Senior brother Tianxing, I have a way. This is an invisibility talisman specially made by our fire tribe. It's a heavenly origin talisman. Maybe it can help you achieve your wish." The fire tribe was born with the ability to control fire. They were good at drawing talismans and making talismans. They could make all kinds of magical talismans. Before Yen left the fire tribe, the Fire Emperor and Fire Empress prepared many powerful talismans for him in case of emergencies. Ji Tianxing saw the talisman in Yen's hand and suddenly showed a look of surprise. "Invisibility talisman? Yen, you actually have such a magical talisman?" Yen nodded and said with a smile, "This invisibility talisman was personally made by my father using the top talisman Dao secret method. I never had the chance to use it before, but now I can finally put it to good use." "Well, that's much easier." Ji Tianxing's expression eased a lot. He nodded and thanked Yen. "Thank you." While casting a spell to activate the power in the talisman, Yen explained to him, "Senior brother Tianxing, this is a special talisman of our fire tribe. Only the power of our fire tribe can use it. After I use this talisman to make you invisible, it can only last for 4 hours at most. You must make good use of the time." As his voice fell, the dark golden talisman turned into a wisp of golden flame, enveloping Ji Tianxing's body. A miraculous scene appeared. Ji Tianxing's body became thin and transparent. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into thin air. Ji Ku's eyes suddenly widened, and her pretty face revealed a look of deep surprise. Ji Tianxing lowered his head and looked at his transparent body. He couldn't help but praise, "This invisibility talisman is indeed mysterious. It actually has such a miraculous effect. Not only can't the naked eye see me, but even if a master uses his soul sense, he won't be able to find me." Yen smiled and nodded. "Senior brother Tianxing, you can go now without worry. Remember, the invisibility talisman only lasts for 4 hours. You must leave as soon as possible." Ji Ku also exhorted with concern, "Brother Tianxing, you must be careful." Ji Tianxing said with his soul sense, "You go back to Qingfeng courtyard first and wait for me to come back." After saying that, he quickly crossed the street and followed the honor guard to the forest of divine monuments. Ji Ku and Yen couldn't see Ji Tianxing's figure, but both of them knew that Ji Tianxing must have blended in with the honor guard. They prayed silently in their hearts, then left the street and rushed back to Qingfeng courtyard. About a quarter of an hour later, Prince Kun's honor guard majestically entered the forest of divine monuments and arrived at the entrance of the monarch mansion. Ji Tianxing had been invisible the whole time. He had been blended in with the honor guard and was not discovered by anyone. At this time, Kunwa took out the prince's token and activated the monarch mansion's enchantment array. The honor guard entered the gate in an endless stream, passed through the colorful barrier, and entered the monarch mansion. Ji Tianxing followed at the back of the honor guard and soon entered an alternate space. He saw a vast grassland under his feet, and in front of him were towering and majestic mountain ranges. Every dark green mountain range was like a huge divine dragon lying between heaven and earth, exuding a powerful and majestic aura. At the end of the vast grassland, close to a towering mountain range, there was a huge lake as calm as a mirror. The land was vast, the mountains were beautiful, and the sky was blue. Occasionally, a few white clouds could be seen. There were also a few gigantic flying spirit beasts that were soaring in the sky. This was the mysterious sacred monarch mansion. Before entering the monarch mansion, Ji Tianxing had fantasized many times about what the mysterious and powerful monarch mansion was like. Now, he finally saw that the monarch mansion was not only a mystic realm, but also a vast small world. Kunwa's honor guard stepped on the green and soft grassland and rushed toward the mountain range in front. Although the guards carrying the monarch's chariot were running on the grassland as fast as the wind, their speed was too slow for Ji Tianxing. The effect of the invisibility talisman only lasted for 4 hours. Ji Tianxing did not want to waste time and followed the honor guard into the mountain range. He quickly condensed a pair of wings with his Kenshin battle robe and quietly flew into the sky, rushing into the depths of the mountain range as fast as lightning. After 15 minutes, he entered the undulating mountain range and flew thousands of feet high in the sky. Looking down from the sky, he could see the situation of the mountain range below clearly. He saw that there were dozens of huge mountain ranges in the area with a radius of thousands of miles. The many mountain ranges were connected head to tail. Clearly, they were arranged in a special pattern, containing the mysteries of an incomparably mysterious array formation. With Ji Tianxing's array formation skills, he could not see what kind of array the dozens of huge mountain ranges were arranged in. But he could be sure that this array formed by dozens of mountain ranges in a radius of thousands of miles was definitely an array formation that surpassed the divine origin level. Moreover, the person who could use dozens of mountain ranges to set up an array formation must be a powerhouse above the soul refinement realm. Ji Tianxing observed for a moment and found that each mountain range was a spirit vein that gathered endless heaven and earth spirit chi. Dozens of spirit veins gathered together, causing the heaven and earth spirit chi in a radius of thousands of miles to be so dense that it made one's hair stand on end. The vast and boundless heaven and earth spirit chi condensed into colorful auspicious clouds in the sky, sprinkling colorful water droplets continuously. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing was instantly filled with shock and surprise. The heaven and earth spirit chi condensed into clouds, reaching the level of spirit chi liquid. Those colorful raindrops are the legendary spiritual liquid. Chapter 497. Ji Tianxing had read a brief history of martial arts in the Tianxian continent and understood many martial arts legends. He knew that spiritual stones and spiritual liquid were rare resources that martial artists needed to cultivate. Spiritual stones were only produced in mines and were extremely rare. Moreover, martial artists needed to meditate and cultivate to absorb the spiritual qi contained in spiritual stones. However, spiritual liquid was different. It was a treasure that was even rarer than spiritual stones. Spiritual liquid was formed by pure spiritual qi and could be consumed directly. If martial artists used spirit liquid to cultivate, not only could they save time in meditation, the effects were even better than spirit stones. However, while spiritual stones and mines were common, spiritual liquid only existed in legends. Ji Tianxing never expected that he would see spiritual qi turn into clouds and liquid in the monarch mansion with his own eyes. This made him exclaim in shock. The monarch mansion is indeed the #1 martial arts sanctuary on the continent. The spiritual qi here is so dense that it can turn into spiritual liquid. Ordinary flowers and trees would become spiritual herbs and spiritual trees after being nourished by the spiritual liquid. If martial artists were to cultivate here, their strength would increase 10 times faster than the outside world. No wonder everyone believes that only by entering the monarch mansion can one surpass the Sky Yuan stage and reach the legendary refined soul stage. When he thought of this, Ji Tianxing's desire to enter the monarch mansion became even more urgent. He continued to fly above the mountain range and observed from above. After a while, he saw another clue. Every mountain range was a spiritual vein, and the tallest mountain in the mountain range was the spring of the spiritual vein. The spiritual qi contained in the entire spiritual vein would constantly surge out from the spring. Therefore, at the spring of every mountain range, on the peak of the majestic mountain range, there was a huge and magnificent palace. Those magnificent and majestic palaces were all located on the peaks of the mountains that were tens of thousands of meters high. The palaces were shrouded in a hazy 5-colored spiritual qi, and below them was a white sea of clouds. This made each palace seem to be standing in the sea of clouds, emitting a hazy 5-colored spiritual light, as if it was the palace of the gods in the 9 heavens. Ji Tianxing observed for a while and suddenly guessed something. I understand now. The palaces above the spirit vein spring must be the residences of the princes. Within 1,000 miles, there were more than 50 mountain ranges, which corresponded to more than 50 princes. Every Thearka's son occupies a mountain range, a spirit vein, and a cave abode, which means that they have an extremely abundant amount of cultivation resources. He was extremely envious of those imperial princes. With such abundant and luxurious resources, it would be difficult for them not to become geniuses. However, he believed that it wouldn't be long before he could enter the imperial palace and become a noble imperial prince. He would have his own spiritual vein and cave abode. Very quickly, an hour had passed. Ji Tianxing crossed a dozen towering mountain ranges and flew to the center of the heaven and earth formation. While he was still far away, he saw a towering mountain in front of him that towered into the sky. The towering mountain that was more than 10,000 meters tall was clearly the center of the area within 1,000 miles. It was also the core of the heaven and earth great formation. Everything above the mountainside was enshrouded in thick white clouds and 5-colored spiritual light. At the peak of the mountain, there was actually a 5-colored spiritual lake with a radius of 5 kilometers. That spiritual lake was the spring of the great formation. The heaven and earth spirit qi within 1,000 miles would constantly emerge from the spring. The extremely dense heaven and earth spirit qi would condense into spiritual liquid. And the endless spiritual liquid would eventually converge into a spiritual lake. After understanding this, Ji Tianxing's heart raced again. Oh my God! A drop of spiritual liquid is already very precious. Its value is comparable to a spirit stone. But the spiritual liquid here can converge into a spiritual lake? How many drops of spiritual liquid would there be? Not to mention using the spiritual liquid to cultivate, even if I bathed in it every day, I wouldn't be able to finish it in my lifetime, right? At that moment, Ji Tianxing's heart was filled with a strong desire and impulse. He really wanted to jump into the spirit lake and drink until he was full of spirit liquid. However, he immediately suppressed this thought, because he saw that in the sky above the spiritual lake, there were dozens of colorful spiritual jade thrones floating. There was a young expert sitting on each of the spiritual jade thrones. Those young powerhouses were male and female. Their appearances and clans were all different. There were humans, demons, and water clans. Moreover, every one of them was dressed luxuriously. Their auras were noble and graceful. Their entire bodies emitted a strong aura of confidence and pride. Tianxing glanced over and saw almost 50 young powerhouses. Almost all of their strengths had reached the sky origin stage. Even if there were 2 or 3 people who only had the strength of the origin core stage, they had all reached the 7th level of the origin core stage. Moreover, their auras were not inferior to others. He immediately understood the identity of those young powerhouses. They were the princes of the monarch's estate. Almost 50 princes sat on the spiritual jade thrones. They formed a circle around a lotus throne that was dazzling with golden light. On the lotus throne that was surrounded by the princes like stars surrounding the moon, a black-robed man sat cross-legged. The black-robed man was a human powerhouse. His figure was thin and tall, and his face was resolute and dignified. He only wore a black robe. His long hair was draped behind his head. He did not tie his hair into a bun or wear a jade crown. There was not a single ornament on his body. However, even though his attire was simple and unadorned, his entire body emitted a transcendent aura as though he was looking down on heaven and earth. The feeling came from the depths of his soul. Tianxing felt it very strongly and deeply. He could even feel that the black-robed man had surpassed the category of mortals. His life had reached a whole new level. As he thought of this, a thought subconsciously appeared in his mind. Soul Refinement Stage Powerhouse. God-tier Master. That black-robed man must be the legendary God-tier Master of the monarch's estate. A few months ago, Tianxing heard that there was an extraordinary Soul Refinement Stage powerhouse above the Sky Origin stage. Before today, he still thought that Soul Refinement Stage powerhouses were high and mighty. It was almost impossible to see them. However, he did not expect to see a Soul Refinement Stage powerhouse with his own eyes at such a close distance. He quickly stopped 1,000 meters away from the princes and did not dare to get any closer. He was not afraid of being discovered by the Sky Origin princes, but he had to be wary of the Soul Refinement Stage God-tier Master. After all, he was not sure how far the God-tier Master's spiritual consciousness could reach. Moreover, he didn't know how powerful that God-tier Master was. The only thing he could do was to hold his breath and calm his mind. He tried his best to conceal his aura so that the God-tier Master would not notice him. The sky was quiet. The black-robed God-tier Master sat on the golden lotus throne with his eyes closed. The martial monarch's sons in the surroundings sat quietly without saying a word. Even if they did talk, they would secretly use their spiritual consciousness to communicate. Chapter 498. The black-robed Divine Master closed his eyes and rested. Many of the thearchs were also silent. Tianxing hid in the sky not far away. His sharp eyes scanned the thearchs and searched for Yun Yao's figure. 1, 2, 3, 4. He saw one majestic and peerless thearchs after another. He also saw the top prodigies of the various races. They were all so elegant. After a while, when he saw a young human in a golden robe, his eyes paused. He was very familiar with the young man in the golden robe. He had seen him at the entrance of the emperor's residence today. That was the Emperor Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao sat on the spiritual jade throne with a calm expression. He was silent and dignified. However, every once in a while, he would look at the beautiful figure on the left with a gentle look in his eyes. Tianxing followed his gaze and saw a cold and proud figure in a moon-white dress. She was an extremely beautiful woman with an otherworldly temperament that could topple cities. She sat quietly on the spiritual jade throne with her eyes closed. Her expression was cold and indifferent, as if she did not care about everything around her. Tianxing's eyes froze as he stared at her. He muttered in his heart, "Eldest senior sister, I've finally seen you. Without a doubt, that was Yun Yao, whom he had been worried about and swore to protect for the rest of his life. The moment he saw Yun Yao, his eyes became gentle, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Ever since he had recovered from his injuries and left the Cloud Spirit Palace, he had been worried about Yun Yao for the past few months. It was as if a heavy stone was pressing down on his heart. Until now, when he saw that Yun Yao was safe and sound and that her injuries and complexion had recovered to normal, he finally felt relieved. Only then did he finally let go of the huge rock in his heart and secretly let out a sigh of relief. Time passed quietly. Ji Tianxing had been silently staring at Yun Yao. He could not get enough of her. Yun Yao closed her eyes and rested for a long time. However, she suddenly frowned as if she had sensed something. She slowly opened her eyes and quietly turned her head to look in the direction of Ji Tianxing. She and Ji Tianxing were connected by blood, and their minds were interlinked. There was a miraculous telepathy between them. Just now, she vaguely sensed Ji Tianxing's aura, which seemed to be nearby. However, she didn't dare to believe that this was true. She even thought that she was hallucinating. Therefore, there was a hint of doubt and expectation in her eyes. However, when she turned her head to take a look, she saw that the sky was empty. Other than the many princes in the surroundings, there was no one else. The anticipation in Yun Yao's eyes dimmed and was replaced by disappointment. She turned her head back and continued to close her eyes to rest. Ji Tianxing saw everything clearly. He was secretly anxious, but there was nothing he could do. If the black-robed Godmaster was not present, he really wanted to fly to Yun Yao's side and use his spiritual sense to communicate with her and greet her. Unfortunately, the black-robed Godmaster was present, so he had no choice but to suppress this thought. At this moment, a handsome young man with silver hair and wearing a white fox fur coat flew over from the sky. He was Prince Kun Wu, the one who helped Ji Tianxing sneak into the monarch mansion. Kun Wu flapped his silver wings and streaked across the sky like a shooting star. He arrived at the scene in a few breaths' time. Prince Kun Wu greets God Master Blackfeather. Kun Wu stood in the sky and bowed respectfully to the black-robed God Master on the golden lotus seat. God Master Blackfeather opened his eyes. There was a faint flash of lightning in his eyes, which tore the sky in front of him until it was slightly distorted. Kun Wu, have a seat. God Master Blackfeather said indifferently. Kun Wu cupped his hands and bowed again. Then he found a spiritual jade seat and quickly sat down. God Master Blackfeather scanned the scene indifferently. When he saw that there were still 5 empty spiritual jade seats, he said calmly, "Basically, everyone is here. Those who are not here need not wait anymore. The Monarch Mansion has summoned all of you back to discuss an important matter. A few months ago, the ancient demon emperor, who had been suppressed for thousands of years, broke the seal and reappeared in the world. Princes, please speak freely and discuss how to deal with this matter." God Master Blackfeather's expression and tone were cold and indifferent. His words were also very concise. He simply explained what he wanted to discuss. Then he looked at the crowd in silence and waited for the princes to express their opinions. Ji Tianxing, who was hiding not far away, raised his eyebrows and looked expectant. As I expected, the Monarch Mansion has summoned all the princes back to Middle State City because of the reappearance of the Demon Emperor. He stared at the princes in the field, holding his breath as he listened attentively. However, the 50 princes were all silent. They looked indifferent and their eyes were calm. No one spoke first. God Master Blackfeather was not in a hurry and did not urge the princes to speak. After 100 breaths, a demon race princess with a slender figure and a foxy temperament spoke in a clear and pleasant voice. "Since none of you are willing to speak first, I, Fox Princess, will throw a brick to attract jade and give you a start." Hearing this, Crown Prince Kunwu quickly chimed in. "As the third princess, Fox Princess does have the right to speak first." Kunwu is all ears. A few other demon race princes also nodded to express their support. The few princes who spoke in agreement were all from the demon race like Fox Princess. Of course, they were on the same side and were very close to each other. Moreover, Fox Princess was the third princess in the Monarch Mansion. In terms of strength and status, she was outstanding. Among the demon race princes and princesses, she was the most powerful and the most senior. More than a dozen demon race princes followed her lead. Since Fox Princess had spoken, the demon race princes naturally had to agree and support her. Fox Princess did not continue with the pleasantries. With a serious expression, she said in a low and resolute voice, "The demon race is cruel and bloodthirsty. If there is a chance to exterminate the demon race, we must not miss it." In the ancient era, the demon race once massacred all the races in the world. They caused the sky to fall and the earth to rend, causing many races to perish. A race as cruel and inhumane as the demon race should not exist in this world. For nearly 1,000 years, the demon race was without a leader and the Tianxian land was able to maintain peace. Now that the demon emperor has reappeared in the world, if he were to lead the demon race, he would certainly set off a new round of bloody storms. Therefore, Fox Princess thinks that the monarch mansion should do everything in their power to kill the demon emperor as soon as possible to prevent him from bringing disaster to the world. After she finished speaking, Fox Princess extended her slender hand and sprinkled the 5-colored vital essence into the spiritual lake on the mountain peak below. Instantly, the 5-colored spiritual lake with a radius of 10 miles turned into a miraculous mirror and displayed a clear picture. It was the picture of a tragic battlefield. Tens of thousands of demon race armies were madly attacking an ancient and majestic city. The city with a radius of a few hundred miles was shrouded by the demon cloud that covered the sky and the sun. It was gloomy and cold. The flames of war were ignited everywhere in the city. Ruins, blood, and corpses were everywhere. The ferocious and bloodthirsty demon race army charged into the city and brutally slaughtered the demon race civilians. After a moment, the ancient city in the picture collapsed and turned into a giant pile of ruins. Chapter 499. After the images in the spiritual lake ended, Fox Concubine waved her hand again and shot out beams of 5-colored light. Then, images appeared in the spiritual lake's mirror one after another. Every image was similar. They were all scenes of the demon race's villages, tribes, and cities being attacked and massacred by the demon race. The scenes in the images were extremely tragic and bloody. It made people feel depressed and angry, and they hated the demon race's cruelty and violence. Fox Concubine showed more than a dozen images before saying solemnly, "The image just now was the scene of the demon race's army massacring the demon race's people 1,000 years ago. Now that the demon race has enjoyed 1,000 years of peace, we can finally recuperate. I, Fox Concubine, will never allow the Demon King to return to the northern desert and lead the demon race's army to massacre the demon race's people again." Speaking of this, Fox Concubine looked at God Teacher Blackfeather solemnly and said, "God Teacher Blackfeather, Fox Concubine pleads for the imperial residents to find the ancient Demon King's tracks as soon as possible. Please kill it before it escapes back to the northern desert to prevent future troubles." God Teacher Blackfeather said indifferently, "The imperial residence is in Zhongzhou City and controls the land of Zhongzhou. They are only responsible for protecting the land of Zhongzhou. If the ancient Demon King escapes to Zhongzhou and wreaks havoc, the imperial residents will naturally send experts to kill it. As for the eastern wilderness, western wilderness, northern desert, and the 9 regions in the south, they are ruled by the various imperial courts. The imperial residents will not interfere." God Teacher Blackfeather's attitude was very clear. The imperial residents ruled the land of Zhongzhou and would only protect it. They would not care about the lives of the various races. After all, that was the imperial court's business. Fox Concubine frowned and asked again, "God Teacher Blackfeather, if the imperial residence is neutral and will not interfere, why did you gather all the princes to discuss this matter?" God Teacher Blackfeather looked at her indifferently and explained, "What I said just now is the imperial residence's position. The reason why I gathered all of you for a discussion is to hear your opinions. The imperial residence will make a decision based on everyone's opinions. Thank you for clearing my doubts." Fox Concubine bowed and did not say anything else. At this moment, Long Yunxiao spoke in a calm tone. 8,000 years ago, the Devil Emperor unleashed a massacre in our territory, causing rivers of blood to flow in several regions and plunging the people into misery and suffering. Now that the Fiend Emperor has broken the seal, he will definitely wreak havoc in our territory. I suggest that the Imperial Monarch residents send experts to kill the Devil King as soon as possible. Furthermore, our Imperial Court will also assist the Monarch Manor with all our might. We vow to fight the demon race to the end. As the Emperor of the Imperial Court, Long Yunzhao's words represented the attitude of the Imperial Court. The princes and princesses of the human race nodded slightly in agreement. Seeing this, Fox Princess glanced at Long Yunzhao, and a playful smile appeared on her lips. Son of Heaven is wise indeed. Our race is the same as the human race. We have an irreconcilable blood feud with the demon race. If we allow the Devil Emperor to recover, he will definitely lead the Devil Army to attack our West Baron monster race. Although you humans are located in the southern continent and are separated from the northern desert by the central continent, you seem to be the furthest away from the demon race. However, once the demons of the western wilderness are defeated, the Demon Emperor's next target will be the humans of the southern land. The relationship between our two races is as close as the lips and teeth. Without the lips, the teeth will feel cold. Long Yunzhao looked at Fox Princess, but he didn't say anything. He just nodded. He entered the Imperial residence late and was only ranked 53rd. However, Fox Princess had been in the Imperial residence for many years and was ranked 3rd. Her strength was several levels higher than his. Before today, Fox Princess had never spoken a word to him, nor did she take him seriously. Of course, he knew that Fox Princess was talking to him in public just to pull him to the same side. At the same time, a princess of the water race sitting opposite Fox Princess spoke indifferently. The territory of the demon race is close to the demon race of the northern desert. Since ancient times, the demon race has harmed us. 1,000 years ago, the Silver Moon Fox race was at its peak, but the demon army slaughtered 60 to 70% of its people. Fox Princess's indignation was understandable. However, the water race of the eastern wilderness doesn't have much of a grudge against the demon race. If you attack the Devil Emperor, I will give you my blessings. I hope you will win, huh? This prince was as strong as an iron tower. He wore a loose purple robe and exuded a domineering aura. His face was resolute and fierce, and his temperament was valiant. A golden dragon horn protruded from his forehead, and his exposed skin was covered in fine dragon scales. This was the most respected prince of the golden dragon race in the eastern wilderness. He was also the prince of the demon imperial court, Tai. More importantly, he was ranked first among the more than 50 princes of the imperial residence. He had already reached the half-step spirit-refining realm and was recognized as the strongest among the princes. He was also the leader of the princes of the water race. When Tai finished speaking, several other princes of the water race chimed in. The imperial residence is the ruler of the middle ground. They have a high status. Why would they interfere with the grudge between the humans, demons, and demons? We haven't even found the Devil Emperor, and the humans and demons are already fighting. That's too reckless. It's just the demons. What's there to fear? The water race of the eastern wilderness isn't afraid of the demons. Fox Princess frowned at the words of the princes of the water race. She looked at Tai coldly and said in a low voice, Tai, the eastern wilderness is the same as the western wilderness. They're both close to the northern desert. Why are you gloating like this? Aren't you afraid that the Devil Emperor will lead his army to invade the East Wasteland and slaughter your water-kind people? Let's see how you're going to defend yourself by then. How are you going to explain it to your people? Tai was still calm. He dusted his wide sleeves and said slowly, for thousands of years, the water race of the eastern wilderness has developed under the rule of the golden dragon race. They're powerful and prosperous. If the ancient demon emperor dares to lead his army to invade, I'll make sure he doesn't return. Moreover, the demon army isn't good at swimming. Even if they enter the eastern wilderness, they won't be able to move. What do I have to fear? Tai then glanced at Fox Princess with a mocking smile. Fox Princess's beautiful face became colder and colder. After a cold snort, she ignored him. Following it, the martial monarchs of the human tribe and the beast tribe spoke too. Everyone supported the imperial residents to kill the devil emperor. Yun Yao listened in silence. She looked indifferent and didn't say anything. Ji Tianxing hid in the dark and observed for a long time. He understood the attitudes of the various races and saw the differences between the princes of the three races. The princes of the Eastern Wilderness Water race obviously followed Tai's lead. After all, he was the most powerful and the oldest among the 50 princes. He was also the heir of the Water race imperial court. The princes of the Western Wilderness Demon race followed Fox Princess. The human princes and princesses all followed Long Yunxiao's opinion on the matter of dealing with the Devil Emperor. Although Long Yunxiao was weaker, he was the emperor of the human race and represented the human imperial court. An hour later, the disciples finished their discussion and looked at Divine Master Heiyu, waiting for him to make a decision. Chapter 500. Ji Tianxing calculated the time. He had at most 15 minutes before the invisibility talisman's effect wore off. Within this 15 minutes, he had to leave the princes and Divine Master Heiyu as soon as possible to avoid exposing himself. However, since he wanted to know the imperial residence's stance and also wanted to talk to Yun Yao, he was unwilling to leave just like that. He stared at Divine Master Heiyu on the golden lotus seat and suppressed his anxiety as he waited silently. However, Divine Master Heiyu did not immediately express his stance. He spoke a few more sentences, indicating that the imperial residents had not started investigating the demonic emperor's whereabouts. If the imperial residents wanted to deal with the demonic emperor, they would have to give out missions and delay the prince's cultivation. There would also be many unexpected dangers. It was even possible that some princes would be sacrificed because of this. Divine Master Heiyu stated the stakes and asked the princes to consider carefully before making the final decision. The princes fell into silence again, and they were carefully weighing the pros and cons. In the blink of an eye, a quarter of an hour had passed. Ji Tianxing knew that the imperial residence was a martial arts holy land and would be very careful when making an important decision. It was normal for Divine Master Heiyu and the princes to discuss for an entire day, let alone 2 hours. However, Ji Tianxing did not have enough time. Divine Master Heiyu still had not expressed the imperial residence's final decision, but he could not wait any longer. Damn it! If I had another hour, I would have known the imperial residence's decision and strategy. No, I can't wait any longer. I have to leave this place in the last 15 minutes and find a safe place to hide. Then, I will think of a way to contact senior sister. Ji Tianxing made up his mind and prepared to turn around and leave. He was wary of Divine Master Heiyu and did not dare to use too much true core power. He gently flapped his golden wings and flew into the distance. However, the flapping of his golden wings still accelerated the flow of the air, creating invisible air currents and cyclones. No matter how careful he was, this was unavoidable. Divine Master Heiyu, who was sitting on the lotus seat, was pondering expressionlessly. His invisible spiritual sense covered a radius of 5 kilometers. He immediately sensed that in the sky 1,000 meters away, there was an abnormal fluctuation in the air, and a trace of true yuan leaked out. At that moment, Divine Sage Heiyu suddenly raised his eyelids and looked at Ji Tianxing with eyes as sharp as swords. Ji Tianxing felt as if there was a thorn in his back when he was being stared at by his sharp eyes. His body suddenly stiffened and he stopped, not daring to move. It's over. Have we been discovered by Divine Sovereign Blackfeather? However, even though he was invisible, he could not escape from Divine Master Blackfeather's senses and was discovered. Who dares to trespass into the imperial residence? God Mentor Heiyu roared angrily. He suddenly raised his right hand and waved his palm to unleash a huge 5-colored palm shadow. Shwa! That huge, dazzling palm shadow contained the power to destroy the heavens and earth. It streaked across the sky at the speed of light and instantly arrived in front of Ji Tianxing. The 5-colored palm was too fast. It was so fast that it exceeded Ji Tianxing's imagination. He had no chance to dodge it. At this critical moment, he did not have time to think. He instinctively opened his wide golden wings and blocked in front of him to protect his body. At the same time, the five-colored giant palm with terrifying power slammed into Ji Tianxing, drowning his body. Bang! A loud, dull sound exploded and echoed in the sky. The violent and devastating force exploded, shattering the sky within 1,000 meters, revealing black cracks. A palm strike from a soul-refining realm expert was so powerful that it could tear the sky apart. Divine Master He Yu's strength was so terrifying. Ji Tianxing was sent flying by the five-colored palm. He only stopped after he was sent flying 1,000 meters away. Fortunately, he used his golden wings to protect himself and blocked the destructive palm strike. He was not killed on the spot. Unfortunately, he suffered severe internal injuries. His internal organs were all twisted and ruptured. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Moreover, the effect of the invisibility talisman was broken by Divine Master He Yu's palm strike. Ji Tianxing's figure was revealed. His face was pale and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked quite miserable as he stood in the sky. Since his whereabouts had been exposed, he decided not to hide anymore. He stood in the sky openly and looked directly at Divine Master He Yu. Divine Master He Yu sized him up and raised his thick, black brows. A look of surprise flashed across his cold and indifferent eyes. A human kid at the Origin Core realm was actually able to withstand a palm strike from this lord and not die? This child is a promising talent. At the same time, the 50 martial emperor's princes turned their heads and looked at Ji Tianxing. Many of the princes looked surprised as they sized him up with complicated expressions. A few of the princes even started to discuss among themselves. It's a human kid. His face is quite unfamiliar. He doesn't know what's good for him. How dare he sneak into the monarch mansion? Even God can't save him. The sacred dignity of the monarch mansion is not to be blasphemed. This kid deserves to die for sneaking in. Interesting. An Origin Core realm human warrior dares to sneak into the monarch mansion. This is really strange. Among the 50 princes, 2 of them had a drastic change in expression. They were not like the other princes who were watching coldly from the sidelines and gloating. These 2 people were Long Yunxiao and Yun Yao. When Long Yunxiao saw Ji Tianxing, he immediately frowned and looked surprised. He had never thought that Ji Tianxing would be so bold as to sneak into the monarch mansion. When Yun Yao saw Ji Tianxing's appearance, her eyes lit up and her heart was filled with excitement and joy. She could not believe that her telepathy earlier was real. Ji Tianxing had really entered the monarch mansion and come to her side. However, the light in her eyes immediately dimmed, and a strong sense of anxiety and worry gushed out. She knew very well that Ji Tianxing would most likely be executed by Divine Master He Yu in front of everyone. As expected, Divine Master He Yu looked at Ji Tianxing with a sharp gaze and shouted indifferently, "Kid, you are the first person who dares to sneak into the monarch mansion in the past 100 years. I will give you 3 chances to say your last words. After you say your last words, come and accept your death." The monarch mansion was a sacred place for martial arts and was the top mysterious force in the Tianxian continent. How could it allow anyone to sneak in? Divine Master He Yu did not kill Ji Tianxing immediately and even gave him the chance to say his last words. This was already a great kindness. Many princes also looked at Ji Tianxing indifferently and did not feel that there was anything wrong. Ji Tianxing did not want to waste any time and quickly flew towards Yun Yao. After a moment, he arrived before Yun Yao and looked at Yun Yao gently. He squeezed out a smile on his pale face. Chapter 501. Yun Yao also looked at Ji Tianxing with a worried expression. She would rather not see Ji Tianxing than see him in a desperate situation. But now that Divine Master Blackfeather had discovered him and spoke in front of everyone, the outcome seemed to be decided. Yun Yao was extremely worried, but there was nothing she could do. She could only sigh. "Tianxing, you shouldn't have come here." Ji Tianxing looked at her clear eyes and said calmly, "But I'm already here. I can only be at ease when I see that you're safe." How could Yun Yao not understand his feelings? But now, it was too late to say anything. The only thing she could do was to plead with Divine Master Blackfeather. At this moment, Ji Tianxing turned to look at Divine Master Blackfeather. He cupped his hands and bowed respectfully. Divine Master Blackfeather, I'm Ji Tianxing. I sneaked into the Monarch Mansion just to see my senior sister. I didn't mean to offend the Monarch Mansion's dignity. Please understand. Yun Yao also hurriedly bowed to Divine Master Blackfeather and said sincerely, Divine Master Blackfeather, Tianxing is my junior brother. We were separated for a few months, and he was worried about me, so he rashly barged into the Monarch Mansion. Please forgive him, Divine Master. Divine Master Blackfeather looked at Yun Yao and Ji Tianxing indifferently and said coldly, the Monarch Mansion's dignity cannot be offended. No matter what difficulties he has, he must die. This is the Monarch Mansion's rule, and it cannot be changed. Yun Yao pleaded again. She quickly said, Divine Master Heiyu, please be lenient and spare Tianxing this time. A few months ago, when the ancient demon emperor broke through the Sky Pillar Sect's seal array, I personally experienced that calamity. As for my junior brother Tianxing, he fearlessly faced the ancient fiend emperor head-on and even injured him and forced him to retreat. He was the one who had saved the Sky Pillar Sect and the Star Ancient Realm. He had saved the billions of citizens of the Heavenly Stellar region. He was the great hero of the Heavenly Stellar region. If the Imperial Residence wants to deal with the ancient demonic emperor, they can't kill Tianxing. He knows the ancient demonic emperor's strength better than we do. Upon hearing Yun Yao's words, everyone present was stunned. They all had expressions of disbelief and disbelief. Many princes stared at Ji Tianxing, their sharp eyes observing him as if they wanted to see through him. One of the demon race's princes said, Yun Yao, aren't you exaggerating? If this person can defeat the ancient demon emperor, doesn't that mean that every one of us here can kill the ancient demon emperor? This person's words caused many princes to nod in agreement. Another young master from the Water Tribe chimed in, he's only at the Origin Core realm, not even at the Heavenly Origin realm. The ancient demonic emperor was an unparalleled demon from 1,000 years ago. Even if he was sealed for 1,000 years and his strength was greatly reduced, he's still not someone a Origin Core realm martial artist can deal with. Golden Dragon Tai Yi sat on the spiritual jade throne and calmly glanced at Yun Yao. He said indifferently, that kid is Yun Yao's junior brother. The two of them have a close relationship. It's understandable that Yun Yao is pleading for him. However, Yun Yao, you actually made up such a ridiculous lie just to plead for him. That's not befitting of a princess. Tai Yi's words naturally garnered the approval and support of many princes from the Water Tribe. Everyone was certain that Yun Yao was lying. With Ji Tianxing's strength, it was impossible for him to defeat the ancient demonic emperor. That was simply unheard of. However, Divine Master Heiyu did not speak. He frowned slightly and looked at Ji Tianxing calmly. He seemed to be in deep thought. The princes did not know about the ancient demonic emperor, but he had already known about it. That was why he had gathered the princes for a discussion. A few months ago, the ancient demonic emperor broke through the Sky Pillar Sect's seal array and started a massacre in the Star Ancient Realm. Someone stepped forward and severely injured the ancient demonic emperor, forcing him to flee. That was how the small Sky Pillar sect survived and was not destroyed by the ancient demonic emperor. Yun Yao and this kid are both disciples of the Sky Pillar sect and should have personally experienced that disaster. If what Yun Yao said is true, and the person who defeated the ancient demonic emperor is really Ji Tianxing, then this kid's talent and strength are truly unimaginable. He might even surpass the princes present. When he thought of this, Divine Master Heiyu's gaze towards Ji Tianxing became much gentler. As the sacred land of martial arts in the Tianxian continent, the imperial residence stood proudly above the mortal world and usually did not care about the mundane matters of the martial arts world. Only the top martial arts prodigies would receive the imperial residence's attention and nurture. Ji Tianxing's shocking talent and strength far surpassed many of the princes present. He was the top prodigy that the imperial residence craved the most. At this moment, Long Yunshao also stood up. He bowed to Divine Master Heiyu and said with cupped hands, Divine Master Heiyu, I can also testify that Ji Tianxing defeated the ancient demonic emperor. Also, Ji Tianxing did not trespass when he sneaked into the imperial residence. He has already decided to enter the imperial residence and made an agreement with me. He will challenge me in front of everyone at the Apocalypse Tower next month. He already meets the basic requirements of the imperial residence. If he can defeat me, he can pass the imperial residence's test and become the new prince. After hearing Long Yunxiao's explanation, many princes raised their eyebrows and looked at him and Ji Tianxing with playful eyes. Divine Master He Yu also raised his eyebrows and looked at Long Yunxiao calmly. There is such a thing? Absolutely. Long Yunxiao cupped his hands and said with a serious expression, Divine Master He Yu, please be merciful and forgive him this time. Divine Master He Yu frowned and thought for a moment. He then looked at Ji Tianxing and said in a dignified tone, Ji Tianxing, you can sneak into the imperial residence. With such talent and strength, you are also a good seedling. Our imperial residence is based in the Tianxian continent. As the top martial Dao sanctuary, we are naturally thirsty for talents. Since the two imperial princes are pleading on your behalf, I'll give you a chance today. I will give you a month's time. If you can really defeat Prince Long Yunxiao, you can pass the imperial residence's test and become the 56th prince. In this way, you will not be considered trespassing into the imperial residence, and I will not pursue your crime. However, if you lose to Prince Long Yunxiao, you cannot become the prince of our imperial residence. I will punish you according to the rules of the imperial residence. After hearing Divine Master He Yu's words, Yun Yao and Ji Tianxing were relieved. Since Divine Master He Yu was willing to give him a month's time, at least there was room for negotiation. Long Yunxiao also looked confident and said with a smile, Don't worry, Divine Master He Yu. I will do my best and will not give him a chance to win. If he loses to me, there is no need for Divine Master He Yu to punish him. I will take care of him. After hearing this, Yun Yao looked at Long Yunxiao coldly and glared at him. Chapter 502. Since Divine Master He Yu had spoken, this matter was settled. All the princes looked on coldly and did not discuss this matter anymore. Ji Tianxing bowed to Divine Master He Yu and cupped his hands. Thank you, Divine Master He Yu. I will definitely defeat Long Yunxiao and enter the monarch mansion as soon as possible to become the new prince. Divine Master He Yu nodded slightly and said indifferently, You still have to wait for a month to become the new prince. Now, you are not the prince of this mansion, so you are not qualified to stay in the monarch mansion. I still have to discuss important matters with the princes. You should leave quickly. After saying that, Divine Master He Yu waved his wide sleeves and signaled Ji Tianxing to leave. Yun Yao quickly cupped her hands and said, Divine Master He Yu, I will send him out of the monarch mansion. Divine Master He Yu nodded and agreed to her request. Therefore, Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao turned and left, flying towards the exit of the monarch mansion. Ji Tianxing endured his internal injuries and flapped his golden wings to fly in the sky. Yun Yao also flapped her fiery wings and followed beside him, flying side by side with him. On the way, Yun Yao looked at him with concern and said, Tianxing, don't do something as dangerous as trespassing on the monarch mansion again. Ji Tianxing nodded and said gently, Senior sister, I have not seen you since you sacrificed yourself to save me. I know you are seriously injured and almost lost your life. I am worried about you and just want to see you. Yun Yao stared at him with a complicated look in her eyes. She sighed and said, Tianxing, you're risking your life just to see me. Is it worth it? Ji Tianxing answered without hesitation. Yun Yao was silent, but a touch of gentleness flashed across her clear eyes. In front of others, she was cold and aloof, and her temperament was as cold as ice. Only in front of Ji Tianxing would her frosty aura melt and turn into soft water. Ji Tianxing said seriously, In a month's time, the emperor will choose his heavenly concubine at the Apocalypse Pagoda. Eldest senior sister, don't worry. When that day comes, I will climb up the Apocalypse Tower and defeat Long Yunxiao in front of everyone. After I defeat him, not only will he not make things difficult for you, I can also enter the monarch mansion. Madame Yun also promised me that as long as I can enter the monarch manor, she will not stop us from meeting. Eldest senior sister, after I enter the monarch mansion, I will be able to see you every day. Ji Tianxing's tone was very solemn, and his eyes were full of confidence and expectation. Yun Yao nodded and warned, Tianxing, I believe everything you said. I believe that you will definitely defeat Long Yunxiao. However, Long Yunxiao was at the second level of the Sky Origin stage after all. He had mastered many secret skills from the royal court. His true power was not to be underestimated. You must be careful and not be careless. Ji Tianxing nodded and said, I understand, eldest senior sister. Not long after, the two of them flew above a vast grassland and arrived at the exit of the monarch mansion. On the vast grassland, there was a huge altar that was 30 meters tall. The altar was 100 meters wide, and there was a huge circular array board at the top. It was engraved with mysterious array patterns. The formation plate lit up with colorful brilliance, condensing into a colorful light gate that was 100 meters tall. It was a teleportation array and also the entrance to the monarch mansion. Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao landed on the array board. Yun Yao took out the monarch's token and activated the teleportation array with a secret skill. Swoosh! The barrier in the colorful light gate disappeared and turned into a whirlpool. Yun Yao looked at Ji Tianxing and said, Tianxing, take care. Eldest senior sister, don't worry about me. We will meet again soon. Ji Tianxing waved at Yun Yao and stepped into the teleportation array. The next moment, his figure was swallowed by the whirlpool and he left the monarch mansion. Swoosh! With a flash of colorful light, he appeared in the forest of divine steels, under the towering gate that was 100 meters tall. He looked back at the gate of the monarch mansion and then left, rushing back to the breeze courtyard in the fish dragon alley. 1 hour later, Ji Tianxing returned to the breeze courtyard. Ji Ku and Yen had already returned to the breeze courtyard. They had been sitting in the pavilion of the first courtyard, waiting for his return with worry. When Ji Tianxing crossed the gate and entered the courtyard, the two people who were waiting for him immediately saw him and hurriedly went up to greet him. Brother Tianxing, you are finally back. Senior brother Tianxing, you are finally back. I'm glad you are okay. Ji Ku and Yen came closer and saw that Ji Tianxing had suffered internal injuries. His face was a little pale, and there were still traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. Immediately, the two of them showed concern and quickly asked, Brother Tianxing, how did you get hurt? What happened? Did the powerhouses of the monarch mansion find you? Senior brother Tianxing, are your injuries serious? Ji Tianxing waved his hand, indicating that they did not need to worry. My injuries are not serious. I will recover in a few days. This is not the place to talk. Let's go back first. Ji Ku and Yen were relieved and quickly followed him back to the living room of the third courtyard. After sitting down, Ji Tianxing saw that there was no one around to disturb them. Then he explained the situation to them. With the help of Yen Er's invisibility charm, I successfully sneaked into the monarch mansion. I happened to meet a divine master and many princes who were discussing how to deal with the demonic emperor. Furthermore, I even saw eldest senior sister. She personally sent me off. Ji Ku and Yen were excited and looked expectant. They quickly asked, Brother Tianxing, you met the legendary divine master and many princes? The monarch mansion summoned many princes back to Middle State City because of the demonic emperor. Senior brother Tianxing, what is the monarch mansion's stance? Will they deal with the demonic emperor? Ji Tianxing frowned and said regretfully, the monarch mansion took a neutral stance in dealing with the demonic emperor. They did not express their stance but listened to the opinions of the princes first. Among the princes of the three clans, only the human clan and the demon clan supported dealing with the demonic emperor. The water clan was indifferent and looked on coldly. Before I heard the monarch mansion's stance, the invisibility charm was about to expire. Then I was discovered by the divine master Heiyu. Speaking of which, the divine master Heiyu of the soul cultivation stage is really powerful. A casual palm strike from him could shatter the sky and almost take my life. Recalling divine master Blackfeather's seemingly ordinary but terrifyingly powerful palm strike, Ji Tianxing still felt a lingering fear. Fortunately, The wings of Kenshin's battle robe helped him block the power of the palm strike. Otherwise, he would not have come back alive. Ji-ku and Yen were originally full of expectations, hoping that the monarch mansion would come out to deal with the demonic emperor. In that case, the demonic emperor would be eradicated quickly, and the Sky Pillar sect and the Ancient Star Realm would be completely stable. Chapter 503. Ji-ku and Yen then asked Ji Tianxing about Yunyao. The three of them chatted for a while before Ji-ku and Yen took their leave and returned to their residence. Ji Tianxing also prepared to return to his residence to recuperate in seclusion for a few days. However, as soon as he walked out of the living room, he saw the Beast King walking towards him. When the Beast King saw him, he quickly waved his hand and said with a smile, "Nephew Tianxing, this old man has something to talk to you about." Ji Tianxing stopped, cupped his hands to the Beast King, and asked, "What is the matter, Senior Beast King?" The Beast King did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. "Nephew will be preparing to enter the monarch mansion in the near future, so you will definitely concentrate on improving your strength and will have no time to take care of Qianyu. It just so happens that this old man has been idle recently and has become more proficient in raising spirit beasts. If nephew doesn't mind, you might as well give Qianyu and the flood dragon to this old man. This old man will personally train and teach them, and they will definitely grow faster. Once they become stronger, they will be of great help to you, nephew." Ji Tianxing naturally would not refuse the Beast King's kindness. He quickly cupped his hands and thanked him. "Thank you for your kindness, Senior Beast King. I will leave Qianyu and the little black dragon in your care." After saying that, he took off the 100 treasures brocade pouch from his waist and handed it to the Beast King. Qianyu and the little black dragon were sleeping in the 100 treasures brocade pouch, quietly cultivating. Unfortunately, they did not have sufficient cultivation resources, nor could they get the guidance of a master, so their speed of improving their strength was very fast. This was a common characteristic of all spirit beasts. Their growth speed was very slow. They often needed to spend hundreds of years to become Yuan Dan stage great monsters or heavenly origin stage monster kings. After the Beast King received the 100 treasures brocade pouch, he told Ji Tianxing, "Nephew, you can cultivate at ease. This old man will not disturb you. If you need anything, just tell White Ape to do it. He will definitely do it well. If nephew is worried about Qianyu and the little black dragon, you can also visit them often to check on their progress." Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. "Then I'll have to trouble Senior. Junior will be eternally grateful." The two exchanged some pleasantries before the Beast King left with the 100 treasures brocade pouch. Ji Tianxing also returned to his residence and went into seclusion to recuperate. The Beast King had prepared a separate courtyard for him, Ji-ku, and Yen. It was called Jade Pure Court. This clear jade garden was the most elegant and unique courtyard in the Clear Breeze Courtyard, with the most abundant spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Ji Tianxing's room was not only elegant and comfortable, it was also equipped with a secret training room and a pill room. Both the secret room and the pill room were equipped with heaven origin grade formations, which could provide an endless supply of heaven and earth spiritual qi. Cultivating in the clear jade garden was faster than cultivating in the Sky Pillar sect. Ji Tianxing sat cross-legged in the secret chamber, absorbing the spiritual energy in the spirit gathering array. Strands of 5-colored spiritual energy flowed into his body like a small stream flowing into a large river. Relying on the powerful self-healing ability of the Kenshin bloodline, he quickly healed his internal injuries and replenished the true essence he had consumed. Time passed quietly, and in the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Early in the morning, Ji Tianxing's injuries had healed, so he ended his seclusion and left the secret chamber. He returned to his room and brewed a pot of spiritual tea, preparing to taste the spiritual tea personally cultivated by the Beast King. At this time, the sound of muffled footsteps came from outside the courtyard. He probed with his spiritual sense and saw White Ape quickly walking into the courtyard, holding a silver-edged invitation in his hand. A moment later, White Ape came to his room and knocked on the door. Ji Tianxing got up and opened the door, asking, "White Ape, why are you looking for me?" White Ape handed the invitation to him and said solemnly, Tianxing, a messenger came to see you just now. He brought this invitation and said that he wanted to give it to Miss Ji Ku. An invitation? Ji Tianxing took the luxurious and dazzling invitation and carefully observed it. The invitation was made of golden paper and wrapped with silver thread at the edges. It was also inlaid with a few gems that flickered with light. Mysterious array patterns were engraved on the invitation, which contained a powerful array power. It looked extremely exquisite and noble. Just this invitation alone was worth at least 10 spirit stones. Ji Tianxing frowned in confusion and asked, "Someone who can afford this kind of invitation must have an extraordinary background." White Ape, did you ask who the messenger was delivering the letter for? White Ape answered truthfully, "I've already asked. The messenger said that he was a guard under Imperial Prince Kunwu." Imperial Prince Kunwu? Ji Tianxing frowned, his eyes full of doubts and puzzlement. Why would Kunwu send someone to deliver an invitation to Koku? The two of them have nothing to do with each other. White Ape naturally couldn't answer this question. He cupped his hands at Ji Tianxing and after bidding farewell, he turned around and left. Ji Tianxing held the golden jade invitation and frowned for a moment before he went to the next room to find Ji Ku. Ji Ku was cultivating when she heard the knock on the door. She quickly stopped and opened the door to welcome Ji Tianxing in. "Brother Tianxing, why are you looking for me?" Ji Tianxing handed the invitation to her and explained, "Imperial Prince Kunwu's guard just sent this invitation to you." Imperial Prince Kunwu? Was it that so-called demon prince? He sent me an invitation? Ji Ku was stunned and thought that she had misheard. After she came back to her senses, she frowned in confusion. "I don't know this guy. Why would he send me an invitation? We only saw his guard of honor on the street that day. Before that, I've never heard of this person." Ji Tianxing nodded. "This is indeed unbelievable. Open the invitation and take a look first." Ji Ku did as she was told. She opened the invitation and read it carefully. After reading the contents of the invitation, her expression became more and more astonished. She said suspiciously, "Brother Tianxing, that Imperial Prince Kunwu actually invited me to Xingyu Villa as a guest." Ji Tianxing frowned. "Invited you to Xingyu Villa as a guest? What is this Imperial Prince Kunwu trying to do?" Ji Ku was also confused and couldn't make sense of it. She frowned and thought for a moment. Then she pursed her lips and said, "Brother Tianxing, we don't know that Kunwu at all. Regardless of whether he sent the wrong invitation or if he has some scheme or intention, we don't need to pay attention to him." Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. Then he said in a solemn tone, "Since Kunwu's guard was able to find Qingfeng Courtyard, he must have followed you or secretly investigated you. Since he specifically asked for the invitation to be given to you, there must be a reason behind it. No matter what, let's go to Xingyu Villa and see what he's trying to do." Ji Ku didn't want to go. Whether Kunwu was a demon prince or the imperial prince of the monarch residence, it had nothing to do with her. Chapter 504. Ji Tianxing found White Ape and asked him about the location of Star Moon Manor. White Ape thought for a moment and told him that Star Moon Manor was outside Zhongzhou City, on Star Moon Mountain in the western suburbs. It was said that Star Moon Manor was a magnificent, palace-like manor. It was the temporary residence of a distinguished person. The moment Ji Tianxing heard this, he understood that the so-called honorable person was most likely referring to Emperor Kunwu. After he and Ji Ku were ready, they left Qingfeng Courtyard and rushed to the western city gate. It was the time when the sun rose, so there were few people on the streets. Ji Tianxing held Ji Ku's hand and flapped his golden wings, flying in the air as fast as light. About an hour later, they passed through the western city gate and left Zhongzhou City. The western suburbs outside the city were covered with rolling mountain ranges, lush forests, and lofty mountains. 200 miles away from the western city gate, there was a crescent-shaped mountain range called Star Moon Mountain. Ji Tianxing took only an hour to arrive at Star Moon Mountain with Ji Ku. The two of them looked down at the peak of Star Moon Mountain from the sky. Soon, they found the magnificent Star Moon Manor hidden in the forest. Star Moon Manor was built on the peak of a mountain that was thousands of feet high and covered an area of 10 miles. The entire manor was very spacious and imposing. There were many majestic and dignified palaces and rows of exquisite and elegant houses within the manor. There were also several gardens, 2 clear lakes, and beautiful pavilions and other buildings in the manor. Ji Tianxing could see that the architectural style of Star Moon Manor was different from that of the human tribe's palaces. It had a strong foreign style. Moreover, the entire manor was protected by the Tianyuan Formation and there were countless guards and maids in the manor. Star Moon Manor was not only luxurious but also heavily guarded. After seeing the layout of Star Moon Manor, Ji Tianxing descended from the sky with Jiku and landed outside the main gate of Star Moon Manor. The gate of the manor, which was nearly 100 meters tall, was like the gate of a majestic city. It was guarded by dozens of muscular demon guards. Ji Tianxing led Jiku to the entrance calmly. A guard captain hurriedly walked out and stopped the two of them in a dignified manner. Ji Tianxing didn't say much and took out the golden invitation card. After the guard captain saw the invitation, he immediately bowed respectfully to the two of them. "So it's your highness, esteemed guest. Please forgive me if I was rude just now. Please follow me. His Highness has been waiting in the heart-nourishing lake for a long time." After saying that, the guard captain personally led the way for the two of them and brought them into the Star Moon Villa. Under the lead of the guard captain, Ji Tianxing and Jiku passed through 2 layers of palaces and courtyards. They crossed several paths and corridors before entering an elegant garden. In the huge garden, there was a mirror-like lake. All kinds of spirit willows and flowers were planted around the lake. In the middle of the sparkling lake, there was an octagonal pavilion with cornices that was about 10 feet tall. Its design was extremely exquisite and unique. There were no pillars at the bottom of the pavilion, but it floated above the lake and was as stable as a huge mountain. The pavilion was surrounded by clear lake water. There was no covered bridge connecting the shore. No matter who wanted to enter the pavilion, they had to fly in the air or use qinggong to step across the lake. Ji Tianxing and Jiku came to the shore of the lake and saw a stone table and a few stone stools in the exquisite and elegant pavilion. A tall and handsome demon youth wearing a white fox fur coat was sitting in front of the stone table. His right arm was placed on the stone table and his palm was supporting his handsome and resolute face. His left hand was holding a cup of spirit tea and he was quietly sipping it. This person exuded an unruly, noble, and powerful aura. He was obviously Prince Kunwu. In addition, there were 2 charming demon maids in the pavilion. One of them was in charge of pouring tea, while the other was sitting at the edge of the pavilion, waving her slender hands and playing a guqin. The melodious sound of the guqin kept coming from the pavilion, making people feel refreshed and relaxed. The captain of the guards bowed to Prince Kunwu in the pavilion and reported loudly, "Your Highness, the honored guests are here." Prince Kunwu came back to his senses and turned to look at Ji Tianxing and Jiku by the shore of the lake. "Let them in." After saying this, he waved his hand and shot out a light blue true essence light beam, pouring it into the sparkling lake. Dense mist immediately rose from the surface of the lake and condensed into ice in the blink of an eye, forming a 10-meter-long covered bridge. The crystal-clear ice-covered bridge spanned across the 10-meter-wide lake. One end was connected to the pavilion, and the other end extended to Ji Tianxing and Jiku's feet. Such a mysterious and extraordinary technique with spiritual qi was not something an ordinary Heaven's Prime cultivator could perform. At least, an ordinary Heaven's Prime cultivator could not do it as easily as Prince Kunwu, who could form a huge ice bridge with a flick of his finger. However, Ji Tianxing did not step onto the ice bridge. He flapped his golden wings and flew across the lake with Jiku, as fast as a beam of light, and landed in the pavilion. Seeing this, Prince Kunwu could not help but raise his eyebrows. Of course, he knew that the other party did not seem to appreciate his kindness and did not have a good impression of him. However, he did not take it to heart. "Please have a seat." Kunwu sat on the stone bench and did not get up. His left hand was still holding the teacup as he greeted them calmly. As he spoke, he sized up Ji Tianxing and Jiku calmly. When he saw Ji Tianxing's face clearly, he frowned and said in surprise, "You are that Ji Tianxing who trespassed into the emperor's residence." "Ha, I didn't expect us to meet again. Ji Tianxing looked at him indifferently and said, I am Ku's elder brother. You invited her to Star Moon Village, so I naturally have to accompany her. Kunwu raised his eyebrows and smiled playfully. Fate is so clever. I didn't expect you to have such a relationship. Then he ordered the demon clan maid behind him, pour tea for the two guests. The demon clan maid was very clever and immediately served Ji Tianxing and Ji Ke 2 cups of spiritual tea. Ji Ke did not appreciate it and said to Kunwu expressionlessly, There is no need for tea. I have never met you before. Why did you invite me to Star Moon Village? What is it? What is it? Just say it. Kunwu looked at her deeply and said with a smile, Ji Ke, although we do not know each other, there is no enmity between us. I have no ill intentions. This monarch invited you to Star Moon Manor to taste the tea, look at the scenery and chat a little. That's all. Ji Ke frowned and wanted to say something. However, Ji Tianxing revealed a playful smile and nodded. All right, since Prince Kunwu wants to drink tea and chat, we will naturally keep you company. Chapter 505. The pavilion quieted down. Only the elegant and soothing sound of the zither lingered in everyone's ears. Ji Tianxing tasted a few mouthfuls of the spirit tea. He felt that after the tea entered his mouth, its fragrance overflowed and the taste was wonderful. After the tea entered his throat, it turned into rolling spirit energy that surged into his body. Immediately, his true essence surged even more, and his spirit was also refreshed. Prince Kunwu's spirit tea is indeed extraordinary. It can be said to be the best. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and praised. Ji Ke didn't want to taste any tea. He just sat quietly and waited for Kunwu to start talking. However, when she smelled the fragrance of the spirit tea and heard Ji Tianxing's evaluation, she couldn't help but pick up the teacup and take a small sip. As soon as she started tasting the tea, she was attracted by the miraculous effects of the spirit tea and couldn't stop. Seeing this, Kunwu smiled slightly and said proudly, This is the best spirit tea from my clan's spirit mountain. If the two of you like it, you can taste it to your heart's content. Ji Tianxing put down the teacup and said seriously, The spirit tea has been tasted. Can Prince Kunwu talk about business now? Kunwu nodded slightly and stared at him. He asked seriously, Ji Tianxing, do you believe in fate? Ji Tianxing couldn't help but frown and asked, What do you mean? Kunwu smiled and said in a sincere tone, You might not believe me when I tell you about this. A few days ago, on the day I returned to the monarch mansion, I saw Ji Ke in the crowd when I passed by the street. I don't know why, but I always felt that I knew her and that there was a wonderful fate between us. Hearing this, Ji Tianxing and Ji Ke both frowned and looked at him, quietly waiting for him to continue. They didn't know what he wanted to do. Kunwu continued, After that, I thought about it for 2 days. My mind has been haunted by this matter. My heart was restless, which naturally affected my martial arts cultivation. I had to untie this knot in my heart. Thus, this monarch ordered people to secretly investigate Ji Ke's name and residence. Only then did this monarch send her an invitation, wanting to meet her. Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and asked, We've already made the appointment and you've seen the person. What do you want to do? Kunwu waved his hand and said, Ji Tianxing, you don't have to take it to heart. I just want to ask her a few questions. Then he looked at Ji Ke and asked, Miss Ji Ke, may I ask where you are from and where you live? Ji Ke didn't understand what he was up to and could only answer truthfully, I'm from the Qingyun kingdom of the Tianshan region. Kunwu nodded and asked, How many people do you have in your family? Who are his parents? Ji Ke's gaze turned playful as a teasing smile appeared on his lips. He replied, My family is too big. There are at least 3,000 to 5,000 people. Huh? Kunwu was stunned and didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her answer. Ji Tianxing chuckled and explained, Prince Kunwu, Kuku's background isn't a secret. If you send people to investigate, you'll naturally find out. I'll tell you directly. Kuku is the princess of the Qingyun kingdom's royal family. Kunwu was enlightened and revealed a smile. Next, Kuan Wu asked Ji Ku a few more questions and indirectly asked about her family background. Ji Ku wasn't scheming and he was magnanimous and innocent. He didn't have anything to hide, so he answered truthfully. An hour later, Kuan Wu had asked everything that she could ask, so the conversation ended here. Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku got up and bid farewell. Prince Kuan Wu, if there's nothing else, we'll take our leave. Kuan Wu quickly got up and sent them off. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Miss Ji Ku, for clearing my doubts. If fate allows, we'll meet again. Ji Tianxing, you're an interesting guy. I hope you can pass the assessment next month and become the new emperor. I'll be counting on your auspicious words." Ji Tianxing cupped his hands and flew across the lake with Ji Ku. They left the heart-nourishing lake. The captain of the guards stayed by the lakeside and led the way back to where they came from. Kuan Wu stood in the pavilion in the middle of the lake and watched Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku's figures leave. A playful smile appeared on his face. Whether it's true or not, we'll know soon enough. He muttered to himself and turned to walk out of the pavilion. He stepped into the air and left the heart-nourishing lake. After Ji Tianxing left the Star Moon Village with Ji Ku, they flew across the sky and returned to Zhongzhou City. Ji Ku looked back at the Star Moon Village and couldn't help but ask in confusion, "Brother Tianxing, that guy Kuan Wu invited us here just to have a cup of tea and ask about my background. Why did he investigate me? What is he trying to do?" Ji Tianxing was also confused. He shook his head and said, "He's a demon prince and also an emperor's son. Logically speaking, it's impossible for him to have anything to do with you. However, he must have other intentions for spending so much effort to invite you to meet him. Unfortunately, I can't see through him and can't guess his intentions." Ji Ku frowned and curled her lips. "Forget it. Who cares what his intentions are? We'll just ignore him in the future." "Okay." Ji Tianxing nodded and didn't say anything else. Soon, 45 minutes passed, and the two of them were far away from the Star Moon Mountain. Ji Ku hugged Ji Tianxing's arm and looked down at the mountains and rivers below. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen, causing her body to tremble and her face to turn pale. She endured the pain and was about to circulate her energy to investigate the situation. At this moment, it was as if a ball of fire had ignited in her abdomen. It quickly spread and rushed into her limbs and bones. In the blink of an eye, her entire body became scalding hot and bean-sized beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. The intense pain assaulted her like waves and she couldn't hold on any longer. She let out a painful groan. "Brother Tianxing, I feel terrible." Ji Tianxing also noticed that Ji Ku's situation wasn't good. Seeing that her entire body was red and her arms and cheeks were scalding hot, he quickly landed on a mountain peak. After Ji Ku's feet touched the ground, she couldn't stand steadily and fell onto the grass. She hugged her head with both hands and groaned in pain. She was actually rolling on the ground in pain. It's going to split open. It hurts. Brother Tianxing, I'm in so much pain." Seeing Ji Ku in so much pain, Ji Tianxing was instantly filled with anxiety. "Kuku, what's wrong? Why did you suddenly become like this?" As he spoke, Ji Tianxing quickly held Ji Ku's hand and used his spiritual sense to investigate the situation in her body. Soon, he found that there was an extremely violent and strange energy in Ji Ku's body. It was rampaging and spreading. Not only that, even her head was filled with that violent energy and her mind was in a mess. Ji Tianxing quickly used his true essence and injected it into Ji Ku's body. He wanted to help her suppress that strange energy and reduce her pain. Chapter 506. Ji Ku suffered enormous pain and torment, rolling over and over on the grass as she constantly emitted painful moans. Ji Tianxing was filled with anxiety and worry, yet he was unable to help her alleviate her pain. He pondered for a moment and immediately realized where the problem lay. Cuckoo was fine this morning, but she became like this after making a trip to Star Moon Villa. She drank a cup of spirit tea in Star Moon Villa? There must be something wrong with that cup of spirit tea. When he thought up to here, he was instantly filled with rage, and he cursed in an angry tone. Damnable Kuan Wu, he actually poisoned the spirit tea? Cuckoo has no enmity with him, Yet he actually did such a despicable and shameless thing as a demon prince. Bastard! I'll go look for him right now. In his rage, Ji Tianxing instinctively wanted to return to Star Moon Villa to settle the score with Kuan Wu. However, Ji Ku's condition became worse and worse, and her consciousness became more and more muddled. After a short moment, she stopped struggling and moaning and actually fell into a coma. After she released her hands that were hugging her head, Ji Tianxing noticed that there were actually 2 bulges protruding from the thick and beautiful hair on top of her head. The 2 sarcoma-like bulges grew on both sides of the top of her head, one on the left and one on the right, and they were extremely symmetrical in shape and size. The bulges were still constantly moving, as if something was about to drill out from within. Why is it like this? Ji Tianxing was filled with astonishment, and he used his spirit sense to investigate, yet he was unable to find any clues or reason. Helpless, he could only utilize his true essence to protect Ji Ku's heart meridian and mind, so as to prevent her from encountering any mishap and losing her life. As for the strange energy in her body, he was powerless to do anything about it. At the same time, there were 4 spirit beasts flying swiftly in the sky not far away. The spirit beast in the lead was a spirit beast with a slender and graceful figure, and a wingspan of 30 meters. On the broad back of the green bird sat a young woman with a peerlessly beautiful appearance who wore a green dress. She had a strength at the 6th level of the origin core stage, and her figure and appearance were both top-notch. She could be called a beauty that could topple cities. Even compared to Yun Yao, her looks and manners were almost the same. However, her temperament was gentle and demure, like the white clouds high in the sky. Her eyes were as clear and calm as a lake, without any ripples. Following behind the green bird were 3 spirit beasts, 2 flame birds and a 4-winged flying leopard. On the back of the 4-winged flying leopard sat a woman in a white dress. She was a little younger, and her looks and figure were also excellent. She could be considered a rare beauty. However, compared to the green-clothed beauty on the back of the blue bird, this woman paled in comparison. On the backs of the 2 blazing birds stood a black-robed guard, and both of them possessed a strength around the 4th level of the origin core stage. Everyone quickly flew through the sky, all of them raising their eyes to look at the distant central continent city. Although they were travel-worn and weary, their eyes were filled with anticipation. At this moment, the beautiful woman in green sitting upright on the back of the blue bird suddenly frowned. She raised her left hand, and a white light flashed within her palm, then a simple light azure jade bracelet appeared out of thin air. At this moment, the light azure jade bracelet emitted a mysterious energy fluctuation, and it was ceaselessly flickering with an azure light. The beautiful woman in green frowned slightly when she saw this scene, and she muttered in a low voice. The azure shadow bracelet reacted again. Looks like there's another demon nearby. She immediately asked the blue bird to slow down and stop in the sky. The 3 spirit beasts behind hurriedly slowed down as well, and they stopped in the sky along with the blue bird. The white-clothed young woman on the back of the 4-winged flying leopard looked at the beautiful woman in green with a bewildered expression, and she asked, "Senior Sister Su Wan, we're about to arrive at Central Continent City. Why did you suddenly stop?" The beautiful woman in green called Su Wan said with a gentle tone, "Junior sister, there's a demon nearby. I'll go take a look at the situation. All of you wait for me here, I'll be right back." As soon as she finished speaking, she rode the blue bird and flew towards the nameless mountain below. The white-clothed young woman and the 2 black-robed guards could only wait in the sky and watch her figure disappear into the distance. Not long after, Su Wan relied on the reaction of the azure shadow bracelet to find the location of the demon. Swoosh! The blue bird landed on the nameless mountain peak. Su Wan jumped down from the back of the blue bird and stepped into the grass. She wore the azure shadow bracelet on her left wrist and held the azure shadow sword in her right hand. Her sharp eyes looked forward. Su Wan silently stepped through the grass and passed through a forest. She saw a grassland in front of her. According to the reaction of the azure shadow bracelet, the demon was in that grassland. However, when Su Wan saw the situation in the grassland, she immediately frowned and revealed a puzzled expression. This was because there was no demon in that open grassland. There was only a young man and woman. The aura of the demon actually came from that young woman? Could it be that she's a demon king that can transform into a human form? Su Wan pondered for a moment with a heart full of puzzlement before walking towards the young man and woman. Ji Tianxing was filled with worry. He was doing his best to protect Ji Ku's heart and mind. At this moment, his spiritual sense suddenly detected that there was a woman rushing over from the grassland not far behind him. He subconsciously turned his head and looked at the green-clothed woman with a vigilant expression. When he saw the green-clothed woman's appearance, a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. However, he quickly returned to normal. Seeing that the green-clothed woman was rushing over with a sword in her hand and seemed to have ill intentions, he shouted in a deep voice, "Stop! For you!" The green-clothed woman was Su Wan. When she heard Ji Tianxing's cold shout, she hurriedly stopped and stood 10 meters away. She sized up Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku before putting away her sword. She cupped her hands and said, "Little brother, I'm the top disciple of the Heaven and Earth sect, Suan." Heaven and Earth sect? Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. He asked in confusion, "Is it the number 1 sect in the Yong and region, the Heaven and Earth sect?" And Suan was just reporting her identity out of courtesy. She did not expect him to have heard of the Heaven and Earth sect. After a moment of shock, she hurriedly nodded and said, "Yes." Ji Tianxing's gaze softened a lot. He asked calmly, "What are you doing here?" And Suan explained with a serious expression, "I was passing by just now and sensed the aura of a demon, so I came down to investigate the situation. According to my investigation, the demon aura came from your companion's body. I saw that she seemed to be injured and unconscious. Her situation is a little strange. I'm afraid it has something to do with the demon aura. I was born in a demon refining family and have been proficient in demon refining since I was young. Perhaps I can help you. Little brother, can you let me check on your companion's condition?" After hearing Suan's explanation, Ji Tianxing instantly frowned. He thought to himself, demon aura? The problem most likely lies with that cup of spirit tea. Kuan Wu is a demon prince. If he poisoned Ku's tea, it's very likely that he used demon methods. Chapter 507. Ji Tianxing was able to discern that what Suan said wasn't false and didn't seem to be lying. Her manner of speech, bearing were all something that only an elite disciple of a prestigious sect possessed. Moreover, her eyes were clear and bright, and her gaze was gentle and innocent. She didn't seem to have any other objective. Ji Tianxing thought in his heart, "I'm helpless towards Ku's situation. I can't even find out the crux of the problem, let alone help her. What Suan said is somewhat reasonable, and she doesn't seem like someone who harbors ill intentions. Why don't I let her try? Perhaps she'll really be able to find out the crux of the problem?" After making up his mind, he said to Suan with a dignified expression, "Miss Suan, I can allow you to examine Ku's body condition. However, I'll say this first. We don't know each other, so one must always be on guard against others. If you dare harm Ku, then I'll surely not be courteous to you." Although these words were slightly harsh, Suan was able to understand his feelings, so she nodded. "Don't worry, little brother, I, Suan, am absolutely not that type of person." As she finished speaking, she walked over to Ji Ku's side in large strides, and she seriously and carefully examined Ji Ku's situation. When she saw the 2 lumps of bulges that appeared on top of Ji Ku's head, a strange expression flashed within her eyes as she vaguely guessed something. After that, she urged the azure shadow bracelet on her left wrist to execute some sort of profound secret technique, and she investigated the situation within Ji Ku's body. During this period of time, Ji Tianxing had always been guarding by Ji Ku's side, and his eyes stared fixedly at Suan. If Suan dared to harm Ji Ku, then he would surely stop her with his fastest speed, and even be able to instantly kill Suan with a single move. After all, Suan only possessed a strength at the 6th level of the origin core stage. At such a close distance, Suan would absolutely be unable to dodge his killing move. Fortunately, what Ji Tianxing was worried about and on guard against didn't happen. Suan had always been seriously investigating Ji Ku's situation, And she didn't have the slightest bit of ill intent, nor did she take any unusual actions. About half a quarter of an hour later, Insuin was done with her investigation and finally stopped. She put away the green shadow bracelet and took out a dark green pill from her space ring. She was about to put it into Ji Ku's mouth. Ji Tianxing immediately reached out to stop her and asked warily, "Miss Insuin, what are you doing?" Insuin was taken aback for a moment before replying subconsciously, "Of course it's to save your companion. You can't be thinking that I'm going to harm her, right?" A wisp of anger flashed in her eyes. She took back the dark green pill and said indifferently, "If little brother doesn't trust me, then I won't save him. On the other hand, a violent demonic energy is wreaking havoc in your companion's body, wantonly destroying her body and internal organs. If not treated in time, your companion's injuries will become more and more serious, and even his life will be in danger." After listening to her explanation, Ji Tianxing finally understood the reason. The violent energy in Ku's body is actually demonic energy? No wonder my true essence was useless and couldn't suppress that demonic energy. He stared into Insuin's eyes. Seeing that her eyes were clear and bright, without the slightest hint of evasiveness, he withdrew his hand and nodded. "Thank you for saving him, Missin," and Insuin didn't bicker with him. She put the dark green pill into Ji Ku's mouth and circulated her energy to catalyze the pill. Immediately, the dark green pill turned into a wisp of green spiritual mist and entered Ji Ku's body through his mouth. Not long after, the medicinal energy of the pill spread out and produced an effect. The violent demonic energy in Ji Ku's body actually gradually calmed down. Her scorching hot body temperature quickly dropped and returned to normal after a short while. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing finally relaxed and let out a sigh of relief. He cupped his hands towards Insuin and bowed, saying sincerely, "Missin, thank you for saving me. I, Ji Tianxing, will remember this kindness in my heart." "It's nothing. You're welcome." Insuin waved her hand, not minding this. Obviously, she had done this many times before, but she never cared about repayment. Insuin frowned and looked at Ji Tianxing. After hesitating for a moment, she said, "Ji Tianxing, there's something I must tell you." "What is it?" "Please speak frankly," Missin. Ji Tianxing nodded. Insuin said in a serious tone, "Your companion isn't human. She's a demonic beast." "What? Ku's a demonic beast?" Ji Tianxing was stunned. His face was filled with disbelief. "That's impossible. Ku is obviously a human. We grew up together since we were young." And Suin's expression didn't change. Her tone was firm as she said, "Ji Tianxing, our family has been demon refiners for generations. We've subdued countless demonic beasts. We're very familiar with demonic beasts and demonic energy. Of course, we demon refiners only deal with evil demonic beasts. We don't fight demonic beasts. An extremely mysterious and powerful demonic energy is sealed in the depths of your companion's soul. She also possesses the bloodline power of a demonic beast. Looking at her condition just now, she must have consumed something that stimulates her demonic energy and bloodline. That's why her demonic energy went berserk." Hearing Insuin's words, Ji Tianxing suddenly recalled that when Ji Ku awakened the Crimson Star bloodline, he had also fallen into a coma. At that time, the medicine elder had told him that an extremely powerful demonic energy was sealed in Ji Ku's soul. That powerful demonic energy was innate. It was very likely that it had something to do with Ji Ku's past. It was also that mysterious demonic energy that almost cost her her life. And now, Insuin was saying the same thing. It was basically the same as what the medicine elder had said. Could it be? Ku's really a demonic beast? Thinking up to this point, Ji Tianxing instantly fell silent. Seeing his silence, Insuin continued, "Ji Tianxing, demonic beasts are between demonic beasts and humans. They're an extremely special race. Once a demonic beast, they'll be demonic beasts for all their lives. Although some demonic beasts are exactly the same as humans before they awaken their bloodline and demonic energy. However, when they're strong enough, or when they accept the demonic beast's spirit awakening secret art, they'll awaken as demonic beasts and reveal their original appearance. although I can't tell what kind of demonic beast your companion is for now. But soon, she'll definitely reveal her original appearance and become a true demonic beast. When that time comes, you'll naturally understand. And Suan had said everything she needed to say. She didn't say anything else and quietly waited for Ji Tianxing's reply. Ji Tianxing pondered for a moment with a complicated expression. After a while, he cupped his hands in thanks and said, "Thank you for telling me this, Missin. Whether 'cause a demonic beast or not, she's still one of the most important people to me. Missin, what kind of pill did you give Ku? How long will the pill's effects last? I'm worried that before long, the demonic energy in Ku's body will go berserk again. When that happens, she'll have to suffer again." And Suan nodded and revealed a regretful expression. She said, "I'm sorry. The pill I gave her just now was a secret pill concocted by our family. I only have one pill on me. In her current condition, she can only maintain it for a few days." Chapter 508. And Suan had already done everything she could and said everything she could. Ji Tianxing understood that as a stranger they met by chance, she had already done everything she could. "Missin, thank you again for your help," he thanked Suan with a solemn expression. "You're welcome," Suan nodded slightly in response. At this moment, a four-winged leopard descended from the sky and landed on the grass. A white-clothed girl jumped off the back of the four-winged leopard and quickly walked towards Ji Tianxing and Suan. The white-clothed girl stared at Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku for a while before saying to Suan, "Senior Marshal Sister Suan, we should go. If we delay any longer, we won't be able to keep the appointment on time. At that time, the other party will inevitably feel that we're not punctual." The white-clothed girl's personality was more lively. Once she opened her mouth, she would talk endlessly without stopping. However, when Suan turned her head and glanced at her, she immediately stopped talking. Suan nodded at Ji Tianxing and calmly said, "I still have matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." Ji Tianxing cupped his hands in salute and watched as she flew into the sky on her blue bird, flying towards Central State City. After a long time, he withdrew his gaze and picked up the unconscious Ji Ku. He spread his wings and flew into the sky, rushing towards the city. 2 hours later, Ji Tianxing returned to Clear Wind Courtyard. As soon as he entered Clear Jade Courtyard, he ran into Yen. When Yen saw him carrying the unconscious Ji Ku, she immediately revealed a puzzled and worried expression. "Senior Marshal Brother Tianxing, what's wrong with Junior Marshal Sister Ji Ku? What happened?" "Let's talk inside." Ji Tianxing carried Ji Ku into her room and placed her on the bed. After settling Ji Ku down, he explained to Yen, "Oh, what happened earlier?" When Yen learned the whole story, his little face suddenly showed a strong anger, and he shouted in a low voice, "Kunwu, as the Demon Clan Prince, the Imperial Prince of the Monarch Mansion, actually did such a thing. Junior Marshal Sister Ji Ku had never crossed paths with him before. Why would he scheme to murder Junior Marshal Sister Ji Ku?" Ji Tianxing said with a cold expression, "Previously, I thought that Kunwu had poisoned the spirit tea, but Ku and I both drank the tea. I was safe and sound, but she suffered such a great change. Later on, I met the head disciple of the Qiankuan sect, Suan. She was born in a family of demon refiners, so she was very familiar with demon beasts and demon energy. After her explanation, I understood that Kunwu must have done something to the tea. I'm a human. Of course, I'm fine after drinking that kind of tea. However, Ku's demon power and bloodline were stimulated, which is why she's unconscious." Yen nodded and asked in a deep voice, "Senior Brother Tianxing, what should we do now?" "Let's go to Star Moon Village and settle the score with Kunwu." Ji Tianxing pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, "The most important thing right now is to find Senior Beast King and explain this matter to him. Senior Beast King has studied how to cultivate demon beasts and spirit beasts for his entire life. He should understand this situation and may be able to think of a solution. It won't be too late for us to settle the score with Kunwu after Ku's condition stabilizes." Yen thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. "All right, we'll do as Senior Brother said. I'll go and ask Senior Beast King to come here now." After saying that, He quickly walked out of Clear Jade Garden to find the Beast King. Not long after, the Beast King hurried to Clear Jade Garden. After Ji Tianxing explained the situation to him, he cast a spell to check on Ji Ku's condition. He spent a quarter of an hour to clearly check on Ji Ku's condition. Then, he frowned and said, Ji Ku's condition has stabilized. She's not in any danger. There's a powerful and mysterious force hidden in her body, and it's undoubtedly demon energy. However, that demon energy is too strong and violent. I can't see any clues and can't do anything about it. For now, we can only wait for Ji Ku to wake up and think of another way. Seeing that the Beast King was also helpless, Ji Tianxing and Yen were a little disappointed and worried. Everyone could only disperse and patiently wait for Ji Ku to wake up. Unknowingly, a day had passed. The next morning, Ji Ku finally woke up. She slowly opened her eyes and looked around. Then, she found herself lying in her room. The room was very quiet. There was no one else except her. Why am I in my room? Where's Big Brother Tianxing? Was he the one who sent me back? What the hell happened yesterday? Ji Ku murmured a few words with a puzzled expression. She raised her hand to rub her sore eyes and prepared to get out of bed and walk around. However, when she rubbed her eyes with both hands, she suddenly felt a stinging pain in her eyes. She faintly felt that something was wrong and subconsciously looked at her hands. When she saw the appearance of her hands clearly, she was instantly stunned. Her face was full of astonishment. He saw that her originally slender and soft hands had grown thick golden fur at some point in time. Not only were her slender and fair fingers full of golden fur, but they also grew sharp and long black nails. Her hands had turned into a pair of beast claws. They looked somewhat similar to a cat's claws. My hands? How did they become like this? Ji Ku was completely dumbfounded. She could not believe her eyes. The sudden change and visual impact made her mind go blank. She was at a loss. After a long time, she came back to her senses and hurriedly jumped out of bed. She hurriedly found a bronze mirror and reflected her appearance. When she saw that there were no obvious changes to her cheeks in the bronze mirror, she heaved a sigh of relief. But in the next moment, she was shocked to see two furry ears growing out of the top of her head on both sides of her head. They were two light golden furry ears. The ears were a little short and triangular. They looked very cute. At first glance, the two little ears looked a little like a cat's ears. However, her original human ears had disappeared into thin air. Ji Ku could not believe all of this. Her psychological defenses immediately collapsed and she screamed on the spot. Intense panic and helplessness made her tremble all over. The bronze mirror in her hand fell to the ground. The sound of footsteps immediately came from the courtyard outside the room. A moment later, Ji Tianxing's voice, which was filled with concern, was heard in the room. "Cuckoo, are you awake?" Ji Ku, who was in a daze, immediately came back to her senses when she heard Ji Tianxing's voice. She instinctively stood up and rushed to the door with a face full of grievances and fear. At this moment, she was extremely afraid. However, she did not know how to face it. She only wanted to throw herself into Ji Tianxing's arms and cry. However, when she rushed to the door and reached out to open it, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. Her body froze on the spot. She saw her pair of furry little paws and instantly woke up from her dream. Her eyes were full of despair. Chapter 509. Ji Tianxing stood outside the door. Seeing that there was no movement in the room, he asked again, "Cuckoo, are you okay? I came to check on you." As he spoke, Ji Tianxing was about to push open the door. Ji Ku's body suddenly trembled. She pressed her hands against the door and hurriedly said, "Big Brother Tianxing, I'm a bit tired. I want to rest a bit more." She tried her best to suppress the sadness and despair in her heart, not allowing her voice to reveal any trace of abnormality. Ji Tianxing was silent outside the door for a moment before replying, "All right, then rest well. Call me if you need anything." Ji Ku's voice was muffled as a layer of mist appeared in her clear eyes. Sparkling tears fell from the corners of her eyes. After a moment, she heard the footsteps outside the door fade away. Only then did she let out a sigh of relief. She silently wiped away her tears and returned to the bedside to sit down. She stared at her hands, looking as if she had lost her soul. Time quietly passed. Unknowingly, it was already afternoon. Ji Tianxing was meditating and cultivating in his room when he suddenly heard a crisp crack coming from the room next door. The sudden cracking sound broke the tranquility of pure jade court. Ji Tianxing was instantly awakened. He immediately rushed out of his room and dashed into Ji Ku's room. As soon as he pushed open the door, he saw Ji Ku lying unconscious on the ground. Beside her was a pile of shattered vase. Seeing the scene, he immediately guessed that the demon energy in Ji Ku's body must have suddenly flared up, causing her so much pain that she wanted to die and causing her to fall unconscious. And when she fell unconscious on the ground, she knocked over the vase beside her. And Suan said that the medicine's effects would last for a few days. The demon energy in Kuku's body will only flare up after a few days. I didn't think that Kuku's demon energy would flare up in just a day. Ji Tianxing was filled with anxiety and worry. He hurriedly entered the room and walked to Ji Ku's side to check on her condition. However, when he saw Ji Ku's appearance, he was stunned. Ji Ku's hands turned into furry beast claws. 2 triangular furry ears popped out from the thick black hair on top of her head. Behind her skirt, half of her fluffy golden tail could be vaguely seen. Even though her height, body shape, and facial features had not changed much. However, the beast claws, ears, and tail that suddenly appeared on her body still gave Ji Tianxing a great shock and visual impact. He had never thought that within a short span of a day, Ji Ku's appearance had undergone such a huge change. Although he was mentally prepared, he was still stunned for a moment when he saw Ji Ku's sudden change in appearance. After a while, he slowly came back to his senses. Ji Ku was lying unconscious on the ground. Her small face was deathly pale. Her miserable and pitiful appearance was pitiful. However, her cute claws, little ears, and fluffy little tail did not look sinister or demonic at all. Instead, it made her look even more charming and adorable. Ji Tianxing was sizing up Ji Ku when Yan and Xianyu rushed into the room like a gust of wind. "Senior Marshal Brother Tianxing, I heard some movement here just now. What happened?" Yan asked with concern as soon as he entered the room. As he spoke, he also saw the situation in the room. When he saw the unconscious Ji Ku on the ground, he was shocked and stopped in his tracks. How did Junior Marshal Sister Ji Ku become like this?" Ji Tianxing shook his head and frowned. "I don't know what happened. Maybe the demon energy in her body went berserk again." After saying that, he reached out to Ji Ku's forehead and cheeks and used his spiritual sense to check her situation. The situation was as he said. Ji Ku's body was burning hot and there was a mysterious and violent demon energy in her body that was surging and erupting. At this time, Yan stared at Ji Ku and observed her for a moment. He couldn't help but frown and say, "Junior Marshal Sister Ji Ku's demon energy erupted, so she demonized and revealed the characteristics of the demon race? But look at Junior Marshal Sister Ji Ku's hands and ears. Why do they look like a fox?" As he said that, he glanced at Ji Ku's ears and tail and then turned to look at Qianyu's appearance. Qianyu suddenly frowned and said in a serious tone, "Yan, don't talk nonsense if you don't know anything. A fox is a fox and a raccoon is a raccoon. A fox and a raccoon are 2 different races. A fox is much smarter than a raccoon. Judging from Ji Ku's demonized characteristics, she should be a raccoon. I'm different from her. I'm a fox and a noble divine beast, the heavenly fox." Yan nodded as if he understood. He stared at Ji Ku for a moment and muttered to himself, "Why do I feel that a raccoon is cuter than a fox?" Qianyu glared at him and said angrily, "Don't compare me with Ji Ku, okay? She's a demon and I'm a divine beast. How can you compare us?" Yan scratched his head and smiled, but he didn't say anything more. After Ji Tianxing used his spiritual sense to check Ji Ku's situation, he frowned and said, "Stop arguing. Ku's situation is very unstable and dangerous. We must find a way to save her. Moreover, the signs of her demonization are getting worse. If we don't find a way to suppress that demon energy, I'm afraid she will change again. Yen also showed an anxious and worried expression. He said in a low voice, "Senior brother Tianxing, our true essence can't suppress junior sister Ji Ku's demon energy. Even senior beast king can't do anything. We don't have any relatives in Central State City. Who can we ask for help?" Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. A cold light flashed in his eyes and he said in a low voice, "Take care of Ku. Use your spiritual sense to protect her heart and mind. Don't let her life be in danger. I'm going to Star Moon Village to find that bastard Kunwu and ask him." After saying that, he picked up the unconscious Ji Ku and placed her on the bed. Yen and Qianyu used their spiritual sense to protect Ji Ku's heart and mind. Ji Tianxing was about to walk out of the room and rush to Star Moon Village. At this moment, a loud and clear voice came from outside the courtyard. "You don't need to go to Star Moon Village. This monarch has come personally." Ji Tianxing was not unfamiliar with this voice. He raised his head and saw Prince Kunwu crossing the gate and stepping into the courtyard. In addition to Kunwu, there were also 2 demon clan guards in black armor guarding the entrance of Pure Jade Garden. Kunwu quickly walked through the courtyard and went straight to Ji Ku's room. When Ji Tianxing saw him, his eyes darkened. He shouted with a cold expression, "Kunwu, you came uninvited. It seems like you have a plan. Speak. What did you do to Ji Ku?" Kunwu looked at him calmly and said in an indifferent tone, "Ji Tianxing, I'll say it again. This monarch has no evil intentions. Everything I did was for Ji Ku's good." 24 hours have passed and the effect of the Spirit Awakening Tea has completely taken effect. Ji Ku should have shown her true form by now. Chapter 510. Upon hearing Kunwu's words, Ji Tianxing's expression suddenly changed and a cold light burst out from his eyes. Spirit Awakening Tea? Revealing her true form? Kunwu, you already knew that Ji Ku is a demon, so you deliberately used this scheme? Ji Ku has no enmity with you. What does it have to do with you whether she's a human or a demon? Why do you want to harm her? Kunwu shook her head and stared at Ji Tianxing. Her tone was solemn as she said, "Ji Tianxing, this monarch's actions are a conspiracy to harm her. However, this monarch is helping her. I came here today to save her." Having said that, she saw that Ji Tianxing's anger still hadn't subsided and his eyes were full of hostility, so she added another sentence. "If you don't want anything to happen to Ji Ku, then let this monarch go in and check her situation. This monarch will let you know the answer and give you a reasonable explanation." Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment before saying in a deep voice, "Kunwu, it's you who made Ku become like this today. You made her suffer pain and danger. Since you came here today, you must give me an explanation. Otherwise, I won't spare you." Kunwu also frowned and squinted at him, revealing an arrogant and confident sneer. "You dare to talk nonsense about dealing with this monarch?" Ji Tianxing's aura was also confident and powerful as he said, "You might as well give it a try." Kunwu narrowed her eyes and didn't say anything. She stepped past him and entered Ji Ku's room. In the room, Ji Ku was lying unconscious on the bed. Her body was burning hot and her face was flushed. Yen and Qianyu were using their skills to protect Ji Ku's heart and mind. Kunwu quickly walked to the bed and looked at Ji Ku with eyes full of expectation. When he saw Ji Ku's hands, ears, and light golden fluffy tail, he suddenly looked excited and bright light surged in his eyes. "Great. I really didn't guess wrong." Ji Tianxing, Yin, and Qianyu were all anxious and worried about Ji Ku. Kunwu, on the other hand, was somewhat excited and pleasantly surprised. Naturally, everyone frowned and stared at him coldly. Kunwu ignored everyone's reaction and muttered to herself with a smile, "No wonder when I saw her, I felt a sense of déjà vu and my soul throbbed. She really isn't a human, but a member of my Golden Raccoon clan." After saying that, he raised his hand and cast a secret technique to check the condition of Ji Ku's body. When he sensed the raging demonic energy in Ji Ku's body, the joy in his eyes grew even stronger. What pure and powerful demonic energy! As he spoke, he took out a crimson pill from his interspatial ring and fed it to Ji Ku. This time, there was no need for Ji Tianxing to speak. Yin and Qianyu both glared at Kunwu and stopped him. Kunwu, what are you doing? What kind of pill is this? You're giving it to Ji-ku so casually, are you trying to harm her? Ignoring Yan and Xianyu, Kunwu looked sideways at Ji Tianxing and said sternly, Ji Tianxing, the answer has been confirmed. Ji-ku is my clansman. I'm going to save her now, and I'll explain it to you later. Ji Tianxing frowned and nodded to Yan and Xianyu. Yan and Xianyu no longer stopped him. Kunwu quickly put the crimson pill into Ji-ku's mouth and channeled his power to catalyze the pill into a crimson light. Swoosh! The crimson light was like flowing water, drilling into Ji-ku's body and immediately erupting with a powerful medicinal effect. In just 100 breaths, the medicinal effect spread throughout Ji-ku's body and temporarily suppressed the turbulent demonic energy in her body. Ji-ku's body temperature gradually returned to normal, and her physical condition also calmed down. She was out of danger. Seeing this situation, everyone breathed a sigh of relief and finally felt relieved. Ji Tianxing stared at Kunwu and said with an expressionless face, Kunwu, you just said that Ji-ku is from the Golden Raccoon clan and is also your clansman. What's going on? Kunwu nodded and explained in a neither fast nor slow tone, that's right. Ji-ku is indeed not a human, but a clansman of our Golden Raccoon clan. The Golden Raccoon clan is a noble clan of the Demon clan. Their numbers are few and their bloodline is very noble and special. When I saw her on the street that day, I felt that she was very special and seemed to be related to me by blood. Since that day, I have suspected that she is not a human and is very likely to be a demon clan. Therefore, I secretly sent someone to follow her to Qingfeng Courtyard and investigated her situation. Ji Tianxing said with an expressionless face, since you sent someone to investigate Ji-ku, you should know that she comes from the Heavenly Stellar Region's Royal Azure Dynasty and is a royal princess. If she is a demon clan, how could she be born in a human kingdom? Kunwu pondered for a moment and said, Central Region is too far away from the Heavenly Stellar Region. In a short period of time, my subordinates can't find her in the Heavenly Stellar Region. I don't know her background. Therefore, I ordered someone to send an invitation card to invite her to Star Moon Manor to meet me. I don't want to waste time and only want to find out her identity as soon as possible. That's why I gave you the Spirit Awakening tea. Kunwu, this is the reason why you caused her to become like this? Ji Tianxing revealed a cold smile and said in a cold tone, for more than 10 years, Ji-ku has been living as a human. She has family and friends and has her own path to walk. Even if there is demon chi hidden in her body, you don't have the right to turn her from a human into a demon clan. Now that she is unconscious, when she wakes up and sees that she has become a demon clan, I don't know how panicked and painful she will be. You keep saying that it's for her own good, but have you ever thought about how she will face this result when she wakes up? How much harm will you bring to her by acting on your own? Kunwu frowned and said in a solemn tone, Ji Tianxing, you probably don't understand. The demon clan is an extremely special clan. Born as a demon clan, she will be a demon clan for all eternity. Even if she temporarily has the appearance of a human, her soul and the bloodline in her bones are ultimately demon clans. One day, she will reveal her true form. Moreover, Ji-ku has a mysterious and violent demon chi hidden in her body. Sooner or later, she will be unable to suppress it and explode. If she doesn't refine it soon, she will definitely suffer pain and torture. She might even lose her life. You guys are helpless against the demon chi in her body, but I can help her refine it and turn danger into safety. She won't have to suffer any more danger and pain. Speaking of this, Kunwu paused for a moment. He revealed an unruly smile and said in a proud tone, Moreover, what's so good about being an ordinary human? Our Golden Raccoon clan is the royal clan of the Demon clan. How noble is our bloodline and status? The purity of Ji-ku's bloodline and demon chi is not inferior to mine. In the past, she cultivated the human clan's martial Dao, so her progress was slow and she didn't have many achievements. Chapter 511. Although the Golden Raccoon clan was the royal family of the demon race, their bloodline was noble and powerful. But in the past 1,000 years, The number of Golden Raccoon Clan members had been decreasing, their talents were also withering, and their power and prestige were not as good as before. Because of this, Kuan-Wu was so excited when he found out that Ji-Ku was from the Golden Raccoon Clan. Moreover, Ji-Ku's bloodline and demon power purity were not inferior to his. In the Golden Raccoon Clan, she was a top genius. With a little training, she would definitely become a heavenly Yuan powerhouse. She might even reach the spirit refinement realm and become a demon emperor powerhouse. In his excitement, Kuan-Wu naturally decided to bring Ji-Ku back and take good care of her. However, Ji Tianxing frowned when he heard what Yangming said. Ji Tianxing looked at him sharply and asked in a deep voice, "Kuan-Wu, what do you mean? Do you want to take Ji-Ku away?" Kuan-Wu looked at him doubtfully and asked back, "Ji-Ku is my clansman. Of course, I want to take her away. Isn't that right? Moreover, you can't save her, let alone help her grow stronger. Only I can do that." Kuan-Wu took it for granted and his tone was tough and domineering. "Don't even think about it." Ji Tianxing refused flatly and said firmly, "Even if Cuckoo is from the Golden Raccoon Clan, she has the right to choose. Now that she is unconscious, I will make the decision for her. She can't accept the identity of a demon, and it's impossible for her to go with you. Cook has parents and relatives who are the royal family of Qingyun Kingdom. She also has us as her best friends. But she has nothing to do with you. What right do you have to take her away?" Yan and Qian Yu nodded in agreement. "That's right. Kuan-Wu, although you are a demon prince, you can't be so overbearing. You have no right to interfere in our affairs. Kuan-Wu, Ji-Ku will never go with you. Give up." Kuan-Wu's face stiffened and anger flashed across his eyes. If someone else had dared to stop him, he would not have cared about their thoughts and decisions. He would have forcefully taken Ji-Ku away. However, he knew very well that Ji Tianxing was no ordinary expert. Although he was not at the Heaven Origin stage, he was stronger than a Heaven Origin stage expert. If he wanted to act recklessly, he would definitely have to fight a fierce battle today. Things would also become completely deadlocked, which would not benefit him in the slightest. Thinking of this, Kuan-Wu suppressed the anger in his heart and patiently explained. "Ji Tianxing, I've already made it very clear. Ji-Ku is a member of the Golden Raccoon Clan and definitely not a human. She's definitely not a princess of the Royal Azure Dynasty and has no blood relations with the royal family." As he spoke, he took out a simple and unadorned round mirror from his spatial ring. "This is a secret treasure of my Yao clan, the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror. It can see through the bloodline of a Yao clan and their past and present lives." Everyone's gaze fell on the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror, frowning as they sized it up. They saw that the mirror was the size of 2 palms and was completely bronze in color. The front of the mirror was a blurry mirror surface while the back was engraved with mysterious patterns and patterns. The edges had already been worn smooth. At a glance, this mirror was an ancient treasure that had experienced thousands of years and exuded an ancient and mysterious aura. As I said earlier, those who were born as Yao clan will be Yao clan for all eternity. I'll let you see Ji-Ku's past life now so that you'll know that she has nothing to do with the human race. As Kuan-Wu spoke, he executed the Yao clan's secret technique. He held the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror in his left hand and formed hand seals with his right hand. With a wave of his hand, he shot out rays of silver brilliance and injected them into the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror. A moment later, he was done with the technique and the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror also lit up with a dazzling silver light. When he held the Seven Treasures Reincarnation Mirror and aimed it at Ji-Ku, the mirror burst forth with an invisible mysterious energy that enveloped Ji-Ku. The blurry mirror surface of the mirror also lit up with silver light, forming a silver light screen. The appearance and scene of Ji-Ku's past life was about to appear on the silver light screen. Not only was Kuan-Wu's eyes filled with anticipation, Ji Tianxing and Qian Yu were also staring intently at the mirror surface of the mirror. However, everyone waited for a full 100 breaths of time and did not see the scene of Ji-Ku's past life appear. In the mirror surface of the mirror, there was only a hazy white mist. Other than that, nothing could be seen. Ji Tianxing immediately frowned and looked at Kuan-Wu suspiciously. Qian Yu curled his lips in disdain and said in a contemptuous tone, Still a Yao clan's secret treasure? Seeing you boast so much and act so mysterious, I thought it was very magical. Yen also pouted and said with a face full of disdain, Tieske, still an emperor's son, actually playing tricks on others. Kuan Wu was both embarrassed and puzzled. His embarrassed face turned pale as he sized up the mirror in puzzlement. How can this be? It's impossible. This sovereign has used this 7 treasures reincarnation mirror countless times. It works every time. How can it not detect Jiku's past life? He tried again and again twice, but still could not detect Jiku's past life. The mirror still showed a white mist. How can it be so strange? This sovereign does not believe it. Since I can't detect your past life, then this sovereign will look at your present life. Kuan Wu frowned and used the secret technique again, sending silver light into the 7 treasures reincarnation mirror. This time, he finally succeeded. The 7 treasures reincarnation mirror finally reacted. On the mirror surface of the mirror, a light screen condensed by silver light appeared, showing a picture. In the picture, there was a towering mountain overflowing with spiritual energy. At the foot of the mountain, there was a winding river like a jade belt. Halfway up the mountain, there was a simple and majestic temple that was full of incense. It was called Wang Lin Temple. At this moment, there was a majestic royal guard of honor walking from halfway up the mountain to the foot of the mountain. Among the hundreds of people, there were more than 20 royal guards carrying a golden and jade-inlaid dragon carriage. In the dragon carriage sat a middle-aged man wearing a golden dragon robe and a graceful imperial concubine. The emperor and imperial concubine had clearly just bowed to Buddha and were about to leave Guangling Temple. At this moment, the guard of honor was walking on the blue stone official road at the foot of the mountain. In the river next to the official road, a golden koi fish that was 5 to 6 meters long suddenly appeared. That huge golden koi fish was not afraid of people. It slowly swam across the river and stopped by the side of the official road. Koi fish represented auspicious signs, and such a huge golden koi fish was rarely seen in 1,000 years. It meant good fortune from the heavens. The guard of honor immediately stopped. The emperor and imperial concubine in the dragon carriage were also alarmed. A few royal guards went down to the riverbank to check the situation and found that the golden koi fish was carrying a huge shell on its back. A few royal guards worked together to remove the shell. The golden koi fish then dived into the water and disappeared. When the royal guards opened the shell, they found that there was a white and tender baby girl lying in the shell. For a moment, the entire guard of honor was shocked. The royal guards quickly carried the shell to the front of the dragon carriage and presented it to the emperor and imperial concubine. Seeing the cute baby girl sleeping soundly in the shell, the emperor was delighted and happily carried the baby girl. It was strange that the baby girl, who was sleeping soundly, immediately woke up after being carried by the emperor. Moreover, not only did she not cry, she even showed a happy smile to the emperor and imperial concubine. Such a rare thing made the emperor and imperial concubine very excited. The emperor hugged the baby girl and looked up to the sky. No one knew what he said excitedly. Over 100 guards of honor knelt down and kowtowed to the sky. Chapter 5:12. The image in the 7 treasures reincarnation mirror gradually disappeared. Everyone seemed to have understood something when they saw this. Ji Tianxing frowned and pondered for a moment before whispering to himself, I suddenly remembered that the image just now was very similar to a legend of the Royal Azure Dynasty. About 10 years ago, the Royal Azure Dynasty emperor had a beloved concubine. After she was conferred the title of imperial concubine, she could not give birth to a child for many years. Later on, after repeated examinations by the palace's imperial physicians, they found that the imperial concubine's body was abnormal and she was born infertile. Since there was no cure, the imperial concubine begged the Royal Azure Dynasty emperor to follow her to Guangling Temple to pray that the heavens would give her a child. In the end, the imperial concubine's sincerity moved the heavens. Not long after she and the emperor finished praying, she became pregnant and gave birth to a smart and cute little princess. At this point, Ji Tianxing's tone was a little complicated. The little princess that the heavens gave to the imperial concubine was Cuckoo. That year, this matter spread around the imperial city for a while and caused many people to talk about it. But for some reason, Cuckoo's mother, the imperial concubine, passed away in less than 2 years. Cuckoo's origin was also banned by the palace and no one was allowed to talk about it anymore. Now it seems that the image just now is somewhat consistent with the legend. However, Cuckoo was not the imperial concubine's child. She was carried by a koi. Yenner's face was full of surprise and she nodded in admiration. I didn't expect Junior Jiku's origin to be so mysterious and bizarre. The emperor prayed to Buddha and a koi carried a baby from the river. This is just like a fairy tale. Qian Yu narrowed his eyes and glanced sideways at Kun Wu. He said in a playful tone, "Since Jiku is from the Golden Raccoon clan, why did she appear in the Royal Azure Dynasty after she was born? She was also lying in a shell and was carried out of the water by a koi? There's something fishy about this. I'm afraid there's a big problem." Kun Wu frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, "That's right. Jiku's origin is indeed a little bizarre. I know there must be some hidden story and twists and turns. Therefore, after I take Jiku away, I will definitely send people to investigate this matter and find out the ins and outs of this matter." Ji Tianxing looked at him indifferently and said in a solemn and unquestionable tone, "Kun Wu, I have already said it. Even if Ku is from the Golden Raccoon tribe, you won't be able to take her away today. Whether she stays or goes, only she can decide. No one can force her." Kun Wu stared at him coldly and asked in a deep voice, "Ji Tianxing, are you really going to stop me? Is there no room for negotiation?" "Of course." Ji Tianxing said in a sonorous tone. Kun Wu furrowed his brows and squinted his eyes. A cold light flashed in his eyes. However, after weighing the pros and cons in silence for a moment, he finally chose to compromise. "Very good. It's Jiku's fortune to have a close friend like you protecting her. I can temporarily not take her away and let her make her own choice. However, you must remember to tell her that if she encounters any danger or problem in the future, she can come to Star Moon Manor to find me." Kun Wu said these words with a solemn expression. He then took out a small white jade bottle and handed it to Ji Tianxing. "There are 3 special pills in here. If Jiku's monster chi erupts again and she encounters danger, she can take these pills to alleviate it." After saying that, Kun Wu turned around and walked out of the room. He quickly left Clear Jade Court. Ji Tianxing held the small white jade bottle and watched Kun Wu's back as he left. The fierce look in his eyes gradually faded. Seeing that Jiku's situation was stable and there was no major problem for the time being, he let Yen and Qian Yu go back to cultivate. He stayed in Jiku's room and sat on the bed to cultivate. He also looked after the unconscious Jiku. Unknowingly, another few hours had passed. It was late at night. Jade Pure Garden was dark and very quiet. At this time, Jiku finally woke up and slowly opened her eyes. She looked around and found that she was still in the room. She secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they didn't see my appearance. However, when she turned her head to look at the bed, she saw Ji Tianxing sitting on the bed cultivating. At that moment, Jiku seemed to have been struck by lightning. Her body suddenly stiffened and her expression became very ugly. "Tianxing Gij, why are you here?" She subconsciously cried out in alarm, her pretty face revealing a panicked expression, and her heart was instantly thrown into chaos. Ji Tianxing was startled awake. He opened his eyes and looked at her, revealing a look of concern. "Cuckoo, you're finally awake. How do you feel now?" Jiku looked at him with tears in her eyes. She repeatedly shook her head and retreated to the corner of the bed. She subconsciously raised her hands to cover her cheeks and golden little ears. However, she didn't want to expose her fluffy claws. She quickly turned her head to the corner of the room with her back facing Ji Tianxing. "No, Tianxing Gij, quickly turn around. Don't look at me." However, she only wanted to cover her claws and ears. She didn't notice that when her back was facing Ji Tianxing, her fluffy golden tail appeared in front of Ji Tianxing. "Tianxing Gij, quickly get out. I'm begging you." Jiku's tears flowed out of her eyes. Her voice was also sobbing. She was anxious, helpless, and aggrieved. She was at a loss. She couldn't accept that she had turned into a demon. She didn't want the person she loved to see her ugliest appearance. Ji Tianxing naturally understood her feelings. He stood up and sat next to her. He comforted her softly. "Ku, we grew up together. We're childhood sweethearts. We're the best friends in the world. No matter what you've experienced, no matter what changes you've undergone, you'll always be the cutest little princess in my heart." As he spoke, he pressed his hands on her shoulders and turned her to face him. Ji-ku faced him, but her head was buried in her chest. She didn't dare to look at his expression or eyes. She was very terrified and afraid to see Ji Tianxing's disappointed expression or disdainful gaze. However, Ji Tianxing continued. "Cuckoo, your bloodline and background aren't something you can decide. The identity of a demon is determined from generation to generation. However, you can choose to face it bravely and treat us, your friends, as always. If we're disappointed in you one day, it won't be because you've turned into a demon. It'll be because you're deliberately distancing yourself from us and unwilling to face us. Do you understand?" Ji-ku stopped crying. She lowered her head in silence for a long time. Only then did she muster the courage to look up at Ji Tianxing. She stared into Ji Tianxing's eyes. After hesitating for a long time, she asked, "Tianxing Gij, I've turned into this appearance. Will you really not dislike me?" Chapter 5:13. Ji-ku's ears were pinched by Ji Tianxing. Her sadness, fear, and helplessness quickly dissipated. She was a little shy and uncomfortable. She struggled slightly and asked hesitantly in a low voice, "Brother Tianxing, do you really think she's cute?" Ji Tianxing nodded and chuckled, "Of course. And she's even cuter than Qianyu." As soon as his voice fell, Qianyu's angry voice came from outside the door. "Old Ji, you're a guy who forgets his friends for a girl. How dare you speak ill of her behind her back?" Immediately after, Qianyu and Yan quickly entered the room. Yan looked at Ji-ku with concern, while Qianyu stared at Ji Tianxing angrily. Ji Tianxing smiled awkwardly and touched the tip of his nose, not explaining anything. When Ji-ku saw Yan and Qianyu, she shrank back unconfidently and wanted to cover her hands and tail with the quilt. She had just calmed down after the sudden change, so her heart was still very sensitive. However, Ji Tianxing, Yan and Qianyu all comforted her, and she gradually calmed down. When Ji-ku's emotions calmed down, Ji Tianxing took out the white jade bottle that Kuan-wu gave him and handed it to Ji-ku. Kuan-wu came by just now and explained the situation clearly to us. You are indeed a demon, and you're from the same clan as Kuan-wu. You're from the noble Golden Raccoon clan. Ji Tianxing told Ji-ku the truth of the matter and explained it to her in detail. He also told her what Kuan-wu said before he left. "Cuckoo, this is the truth of the matter. There are very few people in the Golden Raccoon clan, so when Kuan-wu found out that you're from his clan, he wanted to take you away. I didn't agree to this matter. You have to wait until you wake up and make your own decision." Ji-ku couldn't accept the truth and reality for a while. She shook her head without hesitation. "No, I don't know that Kuan-wu at all. I will never go with him. Tianxing Gij, no matter what happens, no matter where you go, I will follow you forever. You are the only family I have in the Central State. No matter what, I will not leave you." Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. He comforted her softly, "Okay, as long as you make the choice, I will support you. I will never force you to do something you don't want to do." "Yes." Ji-ku hurriedly nodded. After thinking for a moment, he continued, "I'm going to write a letter and send it back to Qingyun Kingdom. I want to ask Imperial Father who I am." Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and said, "That's what I should do. Such an important matter should be clarified. All right, Ku, don't let your imagination run wild. Take a good rest these few days." He said a few words to Ji-ku before leaving with Qianyu and Yan. He knew very well that Ji-ku was only a 15-year-old girl after all. She needed some time alone to calm down after such a drastic change. Peace was restored in Clear Jade Court. For the next few days, Jiku stayed in the room to recuperate. The demonic energy in his body did not act up again. Ji Tianxing saw that her condition had stabilized and entered the secret chamber to cultivate in seclusion. He worked hard to improve his strength. There were only 20 days left before the heavenly consort selection. Time was of the essence. He only wanted to break through to Sky Origin stage before that day arrived. Although Ji Tianxing had not fought with Long Yunxiao, he knew that Long Yunxiao was already at Sky Origin stage. He also knew that Long Yunxiao had reached Sky Origin Stage 2. He also had many trump cards and secret techniques. His combat strength must be very strong. He could only win the battle with Long Yunxiao. He could not lose. Only when he broke through to Sky Origin Stage could he guarantee that nothing would go wrong. In the dimly lit secret chamber, Ji Tianxing sat cross-legged in the middle of the spirit gathering array. His eyes were closed as he silently cultivated. His body was like a whirlpool or a perfect spiritual jade, constantly absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the air. In the sword palace in his body, the 18 sword veins and 108 acupoints were surging with true core strength. It was like a great river flowing endlessly. He continued to cultivate one cycle after another. He used the vigorous true core strength to refine the sword veins and acupoints. He continued to strengthen the power of the sword embryo. As time passed, his strength was slowly increasing. His martial arts foundation was also becoming more and more solid. However, he had been cultivating in seclusion for 10 days. His strength had become more profound, but he still could not touch the shackles of Sky Origin Stage. He could not even touch the shackles of Sky Origin Stage. How could he break through the shackles? He still had a long way to go before he could break through to Sky Origin Stage. Early in the morning, Ji Tianxing was still cultivating in the secret chamber. Suddenly, the deep voice of the burial of heaven rang in his mind. "Kid, maybe you should consider opening up another path and change the direction of your cultivation." When Ji Tianxing heard the voice of the burial of heaven, he stopped and ended his cultivation. He communicated with the burial of heaven in his mind. He asked, "Burial of heaven, have you woken up? You have been recuperating for so long. Have you recovered your strength?" Ever since he fought with the demon emperor, the burial of heaven's strength had been greatly damaged. For the past few months, he had been sleeping in the Kenshin tomb. The burial of heaven replied concisely, "It's nothing serious." "That's good," Ji Tianxing responded. Then he asked doubtfully, "Burial of heaven, just now you asked me to change the direction of my cultivation. What do you mean?" The burial of heaven said in a deep voice, "The martial Dao is like the sword Dao. You must have the determination and will to move forward courageously. Sometimes, you must take an unconventional path. You are now cultivating in seclusion to strengthen your martial Dao foundation and increase your strength. Hopefully, you can break through to Sky Origin Stage smoothly. This is the right path of the martial Dao. It is also one of the ways to break through to Sky Origin Stage. However, your cultivation method of dripping water to penetrate a stone really consumes too much time. Maybe after 3 to 5 years of cultivation, you will be able to break through to the Sky Yuan stage. But you don't have that much time. Ji Tianxing nodded slightly and agreed. That's right. I will challenge Long Yunxiao in the Apocalypse Heaven Pagoda in half a month. That battle is not only related to my and Yunyao's future, but also whether I can enter the Monarch Mansion. It is even related to my life and death. I only have half a month, but I can only win, not lose. The burial of heaven said loudly, "Since you only have half a month, all the more you should try. You have cultivated the 8th level of the sword heart in advance. Now, your body is comparable to a Sky Origin Stage cultivator. If you want to break through to Sky Origin Stage, you should think about it carefully. What is the difference between you and a Sky Origin Stage cultivator? What do you lack?" Ji Tianxing was stunned. He answered without hesitation, "My body has reached Sky Origin Stage. What I lack is true essence. A Sky Origin Stage cultivator can control the power of the 5 elements, but I have mastered the true essence of metal and fire." The Burial of Heaven said in a gratified tone, "That's right. You really understood it." Chapter 5:14. Burial of Heaven's pointers and suggestions allowed Ji Tianxing to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Although this method went against common sense and sounded rather inconceivable, ordinary martial artists would first reach the sky origin stage before being able to cultivate true essence of other attributes and gradually master the power of the 5 elements. However, Buried Heaven's method was the exact opposite of what was expected. Ji Tianxing had to cultivate the power of the 5 elements first before breaking through to the sky origin stage. Ordinary martial artists would never dare to attempt such a thing that went against common sense and reversed the cultivation sequence. Once an accident occurred, it would cause damage to the martial arts foundation. In the best-case scenario, one's cultivation would drop greatly, and in the worst-case scenario, one would go mad and lose one's cultivation overnight. But Ji Tianxing dared to attempt it and had the corresponding qualifications to take the risk and cultivate the power of the 5 elements. Because he was different. Although he had not reached the sky origin stage, his body was already comparable to a sky origin stage martial artist and could withstand the power of the 5 elements. Moreover, he had already mastered the power of metal and fire, so he had a certain foundation. After making up his mind, Ji Tianxing thanked Burial of Heaven. Burial of Heaven, thank you for your reminder and pointers. After speaking, he suddenly thought of something and asked, "Oh right, Burial of Heaven, did Kenshin also use this strange method when he broke through to the sky origin stage?" Burial of Heaven said in a low voice, "How extraordinary is Kenshin's talent?" The bottleneck and martial arts shackles to ordinary martial artists were a smooth path to him. Moreover, when I had consciousness, he had already reached a stage that was close to God, so how would I know what happened to him when he was young? Ji Tianxing was rather shocked when he heard this, and his heart was filled with envy. How good would it be if I could have Kenshin's extraordinary talent? Burial of Heaven said solemnly, "In less than a year, you've reached the 9th level of the origin core stage from the true origin stage and are about to step into the sky origin stage. In the entire profound sky continent, there's probably no one who can compare to such a shocking talent. Even compared to Kenshin, you're slightly better. Kid, you should be content." Ji Tianxing replied, "That may be the case, but I'm pressed for time. I can't delay any longer. I just want to reach the sky origin stage as soon as possible and defeat Long Yunxiao. Only then will I be able to solve all my problems." Buried Heaven responded and then fell silent. He did not say another word. Ji Tianxing also got up and left the secret room to find the Beast King. A quarter of an hour later, he entered the house where the Beast King lived. The Beast King was currently teaching Qian Yu a set of cultivation techniques. Seeing Ji Tianxing arrive, he led him into the guest hall for a chat. After the two of them sat down in the guest hall, the Beast King sized him up and smiled. "Tianxing, you've been cultivating in seclusion for 10 days. Your strength has improved again." Ji Tianxing cupped his hands in greeting and said, "Senior, I've come to find you because of the matter of cultivation. I'd like to ask you a question." The Beast King nodded and said, "Speak frankly if you have any doubts. This old man will definitely tell you everything he knows." Ji Tianxing didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "Senior, I've been stuck at the 9th level of the origin core stage for a few months and have been deeply shackled by the martial Dao. I've been unable to break through to the sky origin stage for a long time. After thinking about it, I've decided to take a different path and cultivate the 5-element energy in advance and borrow this method to break through the shackles." The Beast King instantly raised his brows and said with a surprised expression, "Nephew actually wants to use this method? This method goes against common sense and doesn't conform to the common sense of martial Dao cultivation. This old man once heard that some martial artists were unable to break through to the sky origin stage for a long time and wanted to use this method to break through. But none of those martial artists succeeded. Their fleshly bodies were completely unable to withstand the 5-element energy, and the final outcome was either death or injury. Nephew, have you thought it through?" Ji Tianxing said with a solemn expression, "Senior, I'm naturally clear about this. But don't worry, I'm confident that I can withstand the 5-element energy and there won't be any accidents. The Beast King frowned and weighed the pros and cons for a moment, then nodded and said, "That's right. Nephew, your innate talent is extraordinary and different from ordinary people. You should have hoped to succeed and create a miracle." Ji Tianxing continued, "Senior, now that I only have half a month's time, do you have any methods to allow me to quickly cultivate the 5-element energy?" "A method to quickly cultivate the 5-element energy?" The Beast King frowned and pondered. He pondered for a moment and said with a serious expression, "In this old man's opinion, why don't you try to cultivate together with Qian Yu and study a joint attack technique? Qian Yu is your beast pet, and if you two practice and communicate more, you can achieve the effect of telepathy and have a tacit understanding of each other. If the two of you can cooperate so closely that you can borrow each other's strength and join forces to attack together, you'll be able to indirectly possess each other's strength." Hearing the Beast King's words, Ji Tianxing and Qian Yu were stunned for a moment. Ji Tianxing looked at Qian Yu and nodded. "That's right. Qian Yu has the water and ice attributes, which is exactly what I need. Senior, please teach us how to cultivate a joint attack technique." The Beast King smiled. He took out a book from his interspatial ring and handed it to Ji Tianxing. "Nephew, this is a joint attack secret technique that I've spent decades researching. It's called the Spirit Channeling Heaven Technique." Ji Tianxing took the book with both hands and bowed to the Beast King. "Senior, you are willing to teach me all of your life's work. I can't thank you enough." The Beast King stroked his beard and nodded with a smile. "No need to be so polite. You can count this on your master. Next time I see him, I will ask for more wine from him." Ji Tianxing smiled and said goodbye to the Beast King. He left with Qian Yu. He didn't start cultivating right away after he returned to his residence. Before he started cultivating, he had something important to do. He wrote a letter and asked White Ape to send it to the Forest of Divine Monuments to the Emperor's mansion. He had already told God Master He Yu and the other princes that he wanted to challenge Long Yunxiao. However, this matter required a formal process. He had to hand in the letter in order to be formal and serious enough. After dealing with the letter, Ji Tianxing pulled Qian Yu into a secret room to study and comprehend the spirit communication. Of course, Qian Yu also wanted to study and cultivate with him. This spirit communication was the culmination of the Beast King's life's work. It required both martial artists and spiritual beasts to cultivate at the same time. The two of them had to cultivate and deepen their tacit understanding through cultivation so that they could work together and gather their powers as one. Even if Ji Tianxing hadn't mastered the water attribute, he could borrow Qian Yu's power to use the water attribute vital essence. Qian Yu was the same. He could borrow Ji Tianxing's power to use the metal and fire attribute vital essence. Although the spirit communication was very profound and complicated, it was difficult to understand. However, with Ji Tianxing's innate talent and aptitude, he quickly comprehended this secret technique. He and Qian Yu understood the secret technique and tried to cultivate it. "Please recommend me?" Chapter 515. Inside the Monarch Mansion. At the peak of a mountain, there was a black feather palace in the sea of clouds formed by 5-colored spiritual clouds. At this moment, a huge pitch-black vulture flew through the sea of colorful clouds at lightning speed and landed outside the gate of the black feather palace. A guard in black armor jumped down from the back of the spiritual eagle. He held a golden invitation and quickly walked into the black feather palace. In the spacious and bright hall, Divine Master Blackfeather was sitting cross-legged in the hall. He was cultivating with his eyes closed. The guard in black armor quickly walked into the hall and held the golden invitation respectfully. He knelt down on one knee and reported, "Divine Master Blackfeather, I have an invitation." God's sovereign Blackfeather opened his eyes that were as sharp as lightning. He looked at the golden invitation expressionlessly. He didn't seem to move at all, but with his invisible soul power, he wrapped the golden invitation and flew it to him with a whoosh. He opened the gilded greeting card. After reading the contents, his originally cold eyes flashed with a trace of ripples. However, he did not comment on the contents of the invitation. He closed the invitation and ordered the guard in black armor calmly, "Go to the Yunxiao palace and ask Long Yunxiao to come and see me." The guard in black armor cupped his hands and walked out of the hall. He stepped on the black spiritual eagle and flew toward the Yunxiao palace. About an hour later, the guard in black armor returned with a young man in a golden robe. It was Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao entered the main hall and respectfully bowed to God Sage Heiyu. Prince Long Yunxiao greets Divine Master Blackfeather. "Do you have any orders?" Divine Master Blackfeather flicked his finger, and the golden invitation flew over a dozen meters and landed in front of Long Yunxiao. "This is the invitation that Ji Tianxing just handed over. In 15 days, he will challenge you on the Apocalypse Tower. According to the rules of the Monarch Mansion, the challenge has to be held on the Monarch stage. A divine master from the Monarch Mansion will be present to supervise. I remember that is the day you choose your heavenly concubine. There is a conflict between the dates. I plan to postpone the challenge for a few days. What do you think?" Long Yunxiao raised his eyebrows and said solemnly, "Divine Master Heiyu, there is no need to postpone the date. I have already made plans and preparations. When the time comes, I will not go to the Apocalypse Pagoda. I will hold it on the Emperor's platform." The 3 heavenly concubine candidates have all arrived in the central continent. Divine Master Blackfeather nodded slightly and said, "All right, since you have decided, I will make the arrangements. If there's nothing else, you may leave and prepare." Long Yunxiao bowed and walked out of the hall. After leaving the Black Feather Palace, he flew across the sky at lightning speed, heading towards one of the peaks in the mountains. About an hour later, he landed on a lofty mountain and arrived at the gate of Yunyao Palace. Without a doubt, this mountain peak and the magnificent palace were Yunyao's abode. Within the monarch manor, more than 50 princes each occupied a mountain range, a mountain peak, and a palace. The names of the mountains and palaces were basically decided by the names of the princes. Long Yunxiao walked towards the gate of the palace. The guards at the gate immediately stopped him and bowed. "Your Majesty, please wait. If you need to see my lady, please allow me to inform her." There were more than 100 guards and maids in Yunyao Palace. These people were all arranged by the Cloud Spirit Palace. They were also the guards of honor when Yunyao went out. The guards and maids in the palace all knew Long Yunxiao. They also knew that he was deeply in love with their lady. Naturally, they did not dare to neglect or offend him. Long Yunxiao nodded slightly and said calmly, "Go and report to Yao Yao. Tell her that I have important news to tell her. Please wait for a moment." A black-armored guard quickly turned and went into the palace to report the news. Long Yunxiao stood at the gate and waited for about half an hour before the guard returned. The guard hesitated for a moment before he braced himself and said, "Your Majesty, my lady is cultivating in seclusion. It is not convenient for her to see any guests. Please go back." Long Yunxiao smiled and said calmly, "In the past 2 months, I have come to find Yao Yao more than 10 times. Every time she replied like this. She doesn't want to see me. Does she not even bother to change her excuse?" The guard was filled with fear. He lowered his head stiffly and did not dare to reply. Long Yunxiao continued, "Go and report to her again. Tell her that the news I want to tell her is related to Ji Tianxing." The guard was stunned. He did not know who Ji Tianxing was. However, he did not say much. He went into the palace again and repeated Long Yunxiao's words word for word. This time, when the guard walked out of the palace and came to the gate, Yunyao finally appeared. She was dressed in a long white dress. She walked out of the palace with light steps and walked towards the gate with an indifferent expression. Multicolored spiritual clouds lingered around her body, making her look like a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. She was pure and holy, pure and noble. Long Yunxiao gazed at her affectionately, a hint of gentleness surging in his eyes. After a while, Yunyao came to the gate and stood 10 steps away from him. She said indifferently, "Long Yunxiao, if you have something to say, say it here." Long Yunxiao forced a smile and sighed, "Yao Yao, I thought that after you entered the monarch mansion, I would be able to see you every day and night. I never thought that I would have to use Ji Tianxing's name to see you. Yun Yao said with a calm expression, if you just want to trick me into seeing you, then please go back. After saying that, she turned around and was about to leave. Long Yunxiao quickly said, wait. I really have something to say to you this time. Just now, the monarch mansion received Ji Tianxing's invitation. Divine teacher Heiyu also summoned me to discuss this matter. In 15 days, I've decided to choose a heavenly consort on the monarch stage and have a duel with Ji Tianxing in public. Yun Yao looked at him quietly. She didn't say anything, and there wasn't the slightest ripple in her eyes. Obviously, no matter where Long Yunxiao chose a heavenly consort, she was indifferent. Long Yunxiao smiled and said gently, Yao Yao, choosing you as a heavenly consort on the monarch stage is not as grand as holding a ceremony on the Apocalypse Tower. I know that my decision has made you feel wronged. However, I will do my best to arrange everything. Even if the ceremony is held on the monarch stage, it will be grand and sacred. I will not be rude. Yun Yao said calmly, this is your business. It has nothing to do with me. You don't have to explain it to me. Long Yunxiao was still smiling. He said with a touched tone, Yao Yao, thank you for your understanding. I already know that you are the most reasonable and considerate. Don't worry. Half a year later, when you officially marry into the imperial court, I will make it up to you and hold the grandest ceremony for you. However, before he could finish, Yun Yao turned around and left. Chapter 5:16. Time flew by and 15 days passed in the blink of an eye. Early in the morning, Ji Tianxing and Qianyu finished their cultivation and walked out of the secret chamber. Ji Tianxing stood at the door of the secret chamber with a smile on his face. He said in a serious tone, the day has finally arrived. Today, I have something very important to do. Qianyu looked at him with a smile and said playfully, Old Ji, you seem to be in a good mood. Are you confident? Of course. Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. He then reached out and patted Qianyu's head. Qianyu, I really have to thank you this time. Qianyu smiled proudly and said proudly, Of course. I am the Honorable Heavenly Fox. However, if we really want to talk about it, both of us have to thank the Old Man Beast King. His spirit communication heaven technique is really amazing. As soon as Qianyu finished speaking, Yan Er's voice came from outside the room. Senior brother Tianxing, have you come out of seclusion? Ji Tianxing walked to the door and saw a few people standing outside. Ye Ji Ku and the Beast King were all there. They were looking at him with anticipation. Tianxing, how's your cultivation of the spiritualization technique coming along? Senior brother Tianxing, is today the day you challenge the emperor? Brother Tianxing, are you ready? Apparently, the three of them knew that Ji Tianxing and Long Yunxiao were going to challenge each other. Ji Tianxing smiled and nodded. He said to the three of them, I am ready. Today, I will settle all my grudges in the apocalyptic tower and enter the imperial mansion. The Beast King smiled and stroked his beard. He said, Tianxing, today's challenge will not be held in the apocalyptic tower. It will be held in the imperial stage. Half a month ago, the imperial mansion and the emperor announced that the location of the challenge will be held in the imperial stage. The news has already spread throughout Zhong State City. Today, the imperial stage will be very lively and it will attract tens of thousands of people. Imperial stage? Ji Tianxing frowned. He was surprised by the news. However, he did not care about it. He smiled and said, whether it is the apocalyptic tower or the imperial stage, the result will be the same. Let's go. Ji Tianxing led Qianyu, Yan Ji Ku, the Beast King, and the others and left the imperial stage. Of the imperial stage's imperial stage, the monarch stage was a 1,000-meter tall, ancient and sacred altar. This altar was located in the enormous plaza at the center of the city. It was Central Continent City's core and holy land. Its status was lofty, dignified, and divine. Ever since the monarch mansion was established, the monarch stage had always stood tall in Central State City. It already had several thousand years of history, of the imperial In addition, every martial Dao genius who wanted to enter the monarch mansion had to challenge an imperial prince on the monarch stage. Every time a genius challenged an imperial prince on the imperial stage, it would cause a stir in the city. Tens of thousands of people would gather around the imperial stage to watch. Regardless of whether the challenge was successful or not, the news would spread to the 4 continents. If someone succeeded in the challenge, they would be able to enter the imperial mansion and become famous in the eyes of the people of Zhongzhou City. An hour later, Ji Tianxing and the others arrived at the center of the city. Before they even entered the square, they saw that the huge square with a circumference of 10 miles was already filled with a sea of people. As far as the eye could see, the entire square had been completely filled. There were people everywhere, and it was a scene of extreme congestion. However, the commoners were still filled with excitement. They discussed excitedly and waited in anticipation. The imperial square was filled with people. Even the buildings and streets around the imperial square were filled with people. When Ji Tianxing saw the surging sea of people all around him, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. The imperial square is filled. Do the people of Zhongzhou like to watch a show? Yan was also shocked. He exclaimed, "Senior Beast King, these are not just tens of thousands of people. I think there are at least 100,000 people." The Beast King smiled and nodded. "That's right. Today is a special day. Not only is it the day Tianxing challenges the imperial prince, it is also the day the imperial prince chooses his imperial concubine." After the news spread, it caused a stir in the whole of Zhongzhou City. The people of all races want to watch the show, so there are so many people here. Speaking of this, he looked at Ji Tianxing with a smile. He said with expectation, "Tianxing, if you want to make a name for yourself, your name will shake the world. You must seize this opportunity today." Ji Tianxing nodded and said with a solemn expression, "I understand." After saying this, he led everyone through the crowd and walked towards the imperial stage in the middle of the square. Although the square was crowded, everyone was a martial arts expert. They released a trace of true qi without leaving a trace and pushed the people in front of them away. At first glance, it looked like wherever they passed, the people nearby took the initiative to step back. Not long after, everyone arrived at the center of the square and stopped in front of the imperial stage. Ji Tianxing raised his head and looked at the monarch stage with a calm expression. He saw that the imperial stage was 1,000 meters tall. It was made of an unknown mysterious stone, and it was grayish-brown in color. The surface of the imperial stage was covered with mottled traces of wind and frost. It revealed an ancient aura, as well as a majestic divine aura. The imperial stage was in the shape of a pyramid. The bottom was round and the top was round. On the left and right sides of the imperial stage, there were 2 sky ascension stairs made of dark golden bricks. The 2 sky ascension stairs had 999 steps, directly connecting the ground to the imperial stage at the top. The imperial stage was 1,000 meters high and had a radius of several hundred meters. It was surrounded by grayish-white jade railings, and there were 36 strange beast statues. Those railings and the majestic strange beast statues were the decorations of the imperial stage, and also the foundation of the mysterious array. Today, the imperial prince would choose his future imperial concubine in front of everyone. It was a joyous day. Therefore, the white jade railings around the imperial stage were hung with vermilion lanterns, wrapped with countless red silk and silk. In addition, there were more than 30 black armored guards from the imperial residence. They stood motionless around the imperial stage, exuding a solemn and dignified aura. The imperial stage was solemn and grand. Below the imperial stage, nearly 100,000 people of the central state had gathered. It was extremely lively and noisy. All of this caused Ji Tianxing's expression to turn solemn. The depths of his eyes burned with a strong desire to fight. He looked up at the imperial stage and silently clenched his fists. His eyes were firm and persistent. He said in a confident tone, "Today's battle is about the future and life of the people." Chapter 517. Just as Ji Tianxing and the others were waiting in silence and the 100,000 people were discussing, in the sky not far away, a five-colored stream of light suddenly appeared. Swoosh! The five-colored stream of light streaked across the sky like a rainbow and arrived above the square in the blink of an eye. The five-colored light stopped in midair and revealed a tall and mighty figure. This person was a young man of about 30 years old. His face was resolute and handsome, and his thick eyebrows were slanted into his temples. His eyes were bright and filled with a domineering aura. He was wearing a luxurious green robe embroidered with golden dragons and phoenixes. It was inlaid with silver edges and had a pair of heaven-ascending fire-treading boots on his feet. The countless commoners and martial practitioners on the square below all looked up at him. Soon, the human martial artists recognized his identity. They all revealed excited expressions and began to discuss among themselves. "It's the Crown Prince, Duanmu Yulong. It's really him. I expected that many crown princes would come to watch the battle today. I didn't expect him to be the first to arrive. Duanmu Yulong, the 9th crown prince of the imperial residence. He is one of the most outstanding crown princes of the human race. He is indeed in high spirits." Many human martial artists admired Duanmu Yulong and saw him as the pride of the human race. Many human women, regardless of whether they were married or not, were looking at Duanmu Yulong with shining eyes, revealing deep adoration. Only some of the people of the demon race and the water race had heard of Duanmu Yulong's name. Those who didn't know the inside story asked their companions about Duanmu Yulong's background. "What is the background of that Duanmu Yulong? He seems to be a crown prince?" But seeing the reaction of the human race, it seems that this crown prince is very famous. "You don't even know Duanmu Yulong? He is the 9th crown prince of the imperial residence and the eldest son of the Duanmu family. He is the future head of the family." The Duanmu family? Could it be the Duanmu family, one of the 3 great families of the human race in Central State? No wonder. The 3 great families of the human race in Central State are all ancient families with thousands of years of history. Their strength and status are second only to the imperial court. Even if that Duanmu Yulong is not an emperor's son, his status is noble enough. Just as everyone was discussing spiritedly, another 5-colored spiritual light appeared in the sky not far away. The multicolored radiance arrived above the square and stopped 100 steps away from Duanmu Yulong. The 5-colored brilliance dissipated, revealing a tall and slender figure. At first glance, this white-robed figure had a graceful posture and a slender figure, like a peerless beauty. However, this person was a human youth. His cheeks were fair and delicate, his brows were picturesque, his thin lips were lightly pursed, and his eyes were as clear as 2 deep pools. He was even more seductive and beautiful than those famous peerless beauties in the Central State. This person's beauty was enough to move the hearts of men and make countless women jealous and feel ashamed of their own inferiority. He wore a blue robe that was similarly embroidered with a dragon and phoenix design and cloud-patterned golden edges. His attire and aura were in no way inferior to Duanmu Yulong's. Moreover, he had a string of grayish-white beads in his left hand and a green jade folding fan in his right hand. He was dressed like a distinguished and elegant scholar. As he waved the green jade folding fan in his right hand, one could see a star map engraved on the front of the fan. On the back of the fan, there were 4 simple and vigorous words. Murong Lingfeng. When the countless commoners in the square saw Murong Lingfeng's appearance, they immediately burst into a clamor of discussion. "Murong Lingfeng is here too. The 7th emperor's son of the monarch mansion, the eldest son of the Murong family, the number 1 genius. Today is the day of the emperor's heavenly consort selection. The descendants of the Duanmu family and the Murong family are the first to arrive. It looks like these 2 families are very close to the imperial court. Murong Lingfeng's ranking and strength are both higher than Duanmu Yulong's. Although this person is the most handsome man in the Central State, his methods are even more terrifying. It is said that in the monarch mansion, the human emperors are divided into 3 factions. Murong Lingfeng is the leader of one of the factions. The 100,000 ancient martial art practitioners and commoners in the square were discussing excitedly. Murong Lingfeng stood in the sky for a long time, ignoring everyone below. He calmly looked at Duanmu Yulong with a smile on his lips. He cupped his hands and greeted him. "I thought I was early enough, but I didn't expect you to be even more impatient." Duanmu Yulong also cupped his hands and replied with a calm expression. "Today is the day of the Emperor's heavenly consort selection. He wants to choose Yun Yao as his heavenly consort. How can I not be present?" The two of them were talking through their spiritual sense, so no one else could hear them. Murong Lingfeng revealed a playful smile and said, "Duanmu, you want to personally watch your beloved marry someone else as a concubine? Is this also a kind of cultivation?" Duanmu Yulong glanced at him expressionlessly and sternly said, "Brother Murong, let's not talk about the past. I only admired Yun Yao when she was young. After she left the central state for many years, I have long forgotten about her. Moreover, as the eldest son of the Duanmu family, how can I marry the daughter of the Yun family? Even if we become husband and wife, it will still end in tragedy." Murong Lingfeng didn't give him any face and mocked him with a mocking smile. "Hee, Brother Duanmu, you're thinking too much, aren't you? Yun Yao's temperament is as cold as ice. She's unreasonable and doesn't know how to talk about love. You still want to marry her? Wake up. In my opinion, the Duanmu family doesn't allow you to interact with the Yun family. You can't compete with Long Yunxiao, so you gave up on your obsession, right?" Duanmu Yulong raised his brows and retorted with a smile. "That's right. I can't compete with Long Yunxiao, but can Brother Murong compete with him? That sister you're thinking about is rude to you, but she wants to marry Long Yunxiao. That's right, you haven't seen in Suwen for many years, right? When Long Yunxiao chooses his heavenly consort, you'll be able to see her on the monarch stage and show off her charm to Long Yunxiao." Murong Lingfeng's face immediately darkened and the corner of his mouth fiercely twitched. He gently waved his green jade fan and expressionlessly said, "Suwen isn't that kind of person. It's just that the Yin family wants to climb the social ladder and rely on the imperial court. Suwen has always been kind and filial. She doesn't want to go against her parents' orders. After today, when Long Yunxiao chooses Yun Yao as his consort, I'll let Suwen stay in the central state." The two of them chatted for a while and then fell silent. After a while, Duanmu Yulong broke the silence. He no longer exchanged sarcastic remarks with Murong Lingfeng. His gaze was gloomy and his tone was solemn. "No matter what, once Yun Yao becomes a heavenly consort today, our plans will have to change." Murong Lingfeng also waved his fan and said with a serious expression, "These past few years, Long Yunxiao has been secretly helping the Yun family and obstructing our plans. It's indeed a bit troublesome. Now that he's taking Yun Yao as his consort, he can openly support the Yun family. When the time comes, the Yun family will be able to recover." Duanmu Yulong nodded and his lips curled into a playful smile. He said, "Brother Murong, do you still remember that brat called Ji Tianxing?" "Of course I remember. That person wants to challenge Long Yunxiao today." Murong Lingfeng slightly nodded. Duanmu Yulong sneered. That day, Ji Tianxing barged into the monarch mansion and caused a disturbance in front of all the princes. I saw that his expression was a bit strange when he talked to Yun Yao. Long Yunxiao's reaction was also a bit strange. I feel that this person's relationship with Yun Yao isn't shallow. It's definitely not as simple as a martial sister and a martial brother. Chapter 518. Duanmu Yulong and Murong Lingfeng stood proudly in the sky against the wind. The two of them communicated with their spiritual senses for a while and then fell silent, waiting for the show to begin. Not long after, streaks of five-colored spiritual light were converging from all directions in the sky. These people were the princes of the monarch mansion. Most of them were from the human clan, and only a few were from the demon clan and the water clan. Some of them flew with the wind, some of them rode on majestic spiritual beasts, and a few princes rode on flying artifacts. More than 20 princes from the three clans arrived and stopped in the sky above the square. Everyone spread out and stood proudly in the sky, looking down at the emperor stage below, as well as the 100,000 martial artists and people. Every time a crown prince arrived, the people in the square would burst into a burst of discussion and cheers. All the commoners and martial artists were filled with excitement and excitement. After all, the princes of the monarch mansion were very noble and rarely showed up. All of them were very mysterious. Every few years, when someone challenged a prince, the princes would come to watch the battle and show up in front of the people. To countless people, being able to see more than 20 princes with their own eyes today was not a waste of their lives. On the south side of the square, there was a majestic pagoda that was nearly 1,000 meters tall. In a room on the top floor of the pagoda, two human clan powerhouses were standing by the window, silently watching the square and the emperor's stage not far away. Of the two human clan powerhouses, one was a middle-aged man with a resolute face and a righteous aura. The other was an old man with white hair, but he had white hair and a youthful face. He was hale and hearty, and he had a sage-like temperament. Although both of them were wearing ordinary clothes, they did not wear luxurious clothes, jade crowns, or ornaments. However, both of them had a domineering and majestic aura that looked down on all living beings in the world. There was no doubt that both of them were very noble and had a high status. The white-haired old man looked at the situation in the square, stroked his beard, and said in a low voice, "Your Majesty, with our status, will be a joke if others find out that we've disguised ourselves to watch the emperor's concubine selection." The middle-aged man was the emperor. Hearing this, he couldn't help but frown and said in a low voice, "Imperial tutor, as long as you don't tell anyone, who will know that we were here? This emperor's son is going to choose a concubine in front of everyone. What's wrong with this emperor coming to watch?" The imperial tutor stroked his beard and said with an amiable smile, "Yes, your Majesty is right." However, the emperor favored Yun Yao, and the Yun family had already agreed to this matter. This matter has already been decided, so why would the imperial monarch need to personally come and watch? The Arch frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, 2 months ago, I had already made arrangements for the Enlightening Heaven Pagoda. He did not expect that Cloud Sky would actually change his mind at the last minute and place the ceremony on the monarch stage. If the ceremony was too simple, it would definitely make the Yun family feel dissatisfied, and they would inevitably feel that they were neglected and looked down upon. This emperor has asked Cloud Sky, but he said that he has his own plans. This emperor wants to see with his own eyes what exactly he wants to do. The imperial tutor frowned and thought for a moment before comforting. The emperor is probably doing this because he wants to follow the rules of the emperor residence. After all, there is a kid called Ji Tianxing who wants to challenge the emperor, and this challenge must be held on the emperor stage. Perhaps the emperor wants to defeat that kid first before choosing a concubine. This way, it will be more festive and lively. The emperor was silent for a moment before nodding and saying, "It's good that Cloud Sky has his own ideas and plans. However, this emperor has a bad premonition in his heart. I just hope that nothing goes wrong during today's ceremony. The imperial court cannot afford to lose face like this." The imperial tutor waved his hand and said with a smile, "Your Majesty, don't worry. With the emperor's strength and methods, there won't be any problems." The emperor didn't say anything else. He looked at the emperor's stage calmly and waited quietly. Not long after, 28 princes had gathered around the emperor's stage. 100,000 cultivators and commoners had gathered in the plaza, and the entire plaza was completely packed. In the palaces and pavilions around the plaza, there were people from various races and powerful forces who were silently watching the emperor's stage. At this moment, in the sky above the forest of divine monuments, a black stream of light flew towards the emperor's stage as fast as lightning. That black stream of light was like a pair of huge wings. It looked very mysterious and contained an aura that made one's heart palpitate. Swish! In just a few breaths, that pair of black light wings crossed thousands of meters in the sky and landed on the emperor's stage. A tall and thin figure appeared and stood proudly in the middle of the emperor's stage. This black-robed middle-aged man with a cold expression and a mysterious and majestic aura was Divine Master Blackfeather. He stood on the emperor's stage and looked down at the plaza with an indifferent expression. His entire body emitted an invisible divine soul pressure that immediately shrouded the entire plaza. The 100,000 cultivators and commoners in the plaza all felt chills all over their bodies and their souls trembled slightly. In the blink of an eye, the 100,000 people quieted down and looked up at Divine Master Blackfeather with reverence and worship. This was the power and majesty of a soul refinement realm expert. If it was in a mundane kingdom, a soul refinement realm expert would be able to fight against 1,000,000 soldiers. When the plaza fell into silence and there was no more noise, Divine Master Blackfeather spoke in an indifferent voice. The Emperor residence has been passed down for ages and has always been established and governed by martial arts. Now that martial arts is flourishing and geniuses of various races are emerging in large numbers, this is the fortune of all races and the world. Divine Master Blackfeather's voice wasn't loud, but it was cold and majestic, as if he was announcing an announcement. However, his voice contained the power of the divine soul. It enveloped a radius of 10 miles and was clearly transmitted into everyone's mind. Today, the genius of the human race, Ji Tianxing, will challenge the 53rd Prince, Long Yunxiao, on the Emperor stage. May the heavens bear witness, the ancestors of the Emperor residence bear witness, and the millions of commoners bear witness. Divine Master Blackfeather solemnly said the words, "Bear witness," and even bowed to the heavens, looking extremely sacred. Seeing this scene, everyone in the plaza was nervous. They stared at the Emperor stage with their eyes wide open and their hearts were filled with anticipation. Divine Master Blackfeather spoke again in a deep voice. "I, Blackfeather, will be presiding over today's assessment. Now, may the challenger, Ji Tianxing, please ascend the Emperor stage." As his voice fell, Ji Tianxing, who was in the crowd below the stage, turned into a golden flowing light and flew up to the sky with a swoosh, landing on the Emperor stage. Instantly, the gazes of the 100,000 people in the square all landed on Ji Tianxing. None of the commoners and cultivators of various races knew him, let alone heard of his name. Everyone was filled with curiosity as they sized him up and discussed in low voices. Chapter 5:19. Ji Tianxing stood on the monarch stage with a calm expression, as if nothing had happened. Although there were 100,000 people on the square looking at him, countless people were whispering to each other. Some were looking at him suspiciously, some were teasing him, and some were mocking him with disdain. All sorts of voices surged into his ears like a torrent. However, he didn't have any stage fright or fear, nor was he excited. His emotions were as calm as his expression. He waited quietly on the monarch stage. His target was only Long Yunxiao. As for the 100,000 people on the square and the more than 20 princes in the sky, they were all ignored by him. At this moment, Divine Master Blackfeather said loudly, "Now, let's welcome Prince Long Yunxiao to the stage." As his voice fell, a colorful spiritual light flew out from one of the palaces at the edge of the square. Swoosh! The colorful spiritual light streaked across the sky. After a few breaths, it passed through half of the square and landed on the monarch stage. As the colorful light faded, a young man in a golden robe appeared. This man was tall and handsome. He exuded a dignified and noble aura. He was the Emperor Long Yunxiao. Long Yunxiao looked at Ji Tianxing, who was 100 steps away, and said indifferently, "Ji Tianxing, I have been waiting for this day for a long time." Ji Tianxing stared at him and said calmly, "I have been waiting for this day for a long time too. After today, I hope you will still remember what you said half a year ago." Long Yunxiao frowned and sneered. He said proudly, "Today, you will lose for sure. Moreover, you will not live past today." Ji Tianxing said confidently, "The one who will lose for sure is you." "Then let's wait and see." Long Yunxiao narrowed his eyes, the corner of his mouth holding a thick sneer. At the same time, Divine Master Blackfeather waved his palms and released thousands of colorful lights. The lights were shot into the railings and strange beast statues around the monarch stage. The defensive array of the monarch stage was activated. A colorful light barrier with a radius of a few hundred meters appeared and enveloped the entire monarch stage. The palm-thick translucent light shield actually had a very strong defense. Cultivators below the soul refining stage, not even a sky origin stage cultivator could destroy it. In this way, no matter how intense the battle between Ji Tianxing and Long Yunxiao was on the monarch stage, the shockwaves from the battle wouldn't spread out and harm the commoners in the plaza. After activating the defensive array, God Mentor Blackfeather announced loudly, "I hereby announce that the challenge begins now." After saying that, his figure flashed and passed through the defensive formation, flying high into the sky. He stood in the sky, overlooking the entire arena from above, supervising this challenge. Ji Tianxing and Long Yunxiao no longer hesitated. They immediately launched their attacks. Long Yunxiao's palm flashed, and a golden sword appeared. It was the Nine-Cloud Sword. He held the Nine-Cloud Sword in his hand and unleashed all of his power. The blade of the sword lit up with dazzling five-colored spiritual light, which condensed into a huge sword light that was 10 meters long. "Soaring sword!" Long Yunxiao shouted in a low voice as he swung the Nine-Cloud Sword towards Ji Tianxing. The 10-meter-long five-colored sword light suddenly pierced through the sky like lightning and arrived in front of Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing was already prepared. He took out the Black Dragon Sword and brazenly unsheathed it to meet Long Yunxiao. Soaring Dragon from the Ninth Heaven. He held the scabbard in his left hand and the hilt of the Black Dragon Sword in his right hand. He pulled out the Black Dragon Sword and slashed at Long Yunxiao. Swoosh! The moment the Black Dragon Sword came out of the scabbard, a dazzling cold light tore through the sky, bursting with an extremely sharp sword intent. The 10-meter-long dazzling sword light condensed into the shadow of a divine dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it pounced at Long Yunxiao. Not only that, Qian Yu also released the surging power of the ice attribute. She used the secret skill of the spirit communication technique to join forces with Ji Tianxing. The flickering shadow of the divine dragon, after fusing with the power of the ice attribute, immediately turned into an ice-blue dragon. Its power was doubled. Roar! The sacred and majestic ice dragon let out a resounding dragon roar. With the power to destroy everything, it pounced at Long Yunxiao. In the next moment, the huge ice dragon and the five-colored sword light collided fiercely, exploding with an earth-shattering sound. Boom! The five-colored sword light slashed out by the Nine-Cloud Sword was shattered on the spot by the ice dragon. It turned into light fragments that filled the sky and quickly dissipated. The power of the ice dragon weakened a little, but it did not dissipate. It ruthlessly slashed at Long Yunxiao. Bang! In the dull loud sound, Long Yunxiao's figure was drowned by the ice-blue brilliance that filled the sky. The huge ice dragon fiercely slammed into the Emperor platform, creating a huge crack in the black stone floor. Countless pieces of stone splashed out. Seeing this scene, the warriors and commoners in the square were shocked. They exclaimed in disbelief. No one would have thought that Long Yunxiao and Ji Tianxing would be at a disadvantage after exchanging just one blow. And that unknown Ji Tianxing actually had such powerful combat strength. Suddenly, those who were discussing and mocking Ji Tianxing immediately shut their mouths. Everyone put away their contempt. They had to look at Ji Tianxing seriously and reanalyze the result of this challenge. The expressions of the more than 20 princes in the square changed. They revealed complicated expressions. Murong Lingfeng's lips curled into a playful smile. He gently waved his green jade folding fan and said to himself, "This Ji Tianxing is a little interesting. I'm really looking forward to it." Not far away, Duan Muyulong's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He whispered, "No wonder this kid dares to challenge Long Yunxiao. He has some strength." In addition, the other 20 princes also revealed surprised expressions. They stared at the Emperor platform with interest. The princes originally thought that Ji Tianxing was no match for Long Yunxiao and would be defeated soon, just like the previous challengers. For countless years, almost every 1 or 2 years, there would be people challenging the princes, wanting to enter the monarch mansion. Those people were called martial arts geniuses in the four-way continent, but they were no match for the princes. They would often be defeated before long. There were even people who were thrown off the emperor platform, losing face in front of tens of thousands of commoners. A moment later, the ice-blue brilliance on the emperor platform that covered the sky dissipated. Under the gaze of 100,000 people, Long Yunxiao's figure appeared again. He stood on the emperor platform safe and sound, holding the nine-cloud sword in his hand and wearing a set of dark golden armor. This set of dark golden armor covered his entire body, revealing only a pair of eyes. There was also a pair of dark golden wings on his back, which made him look extraordinarily mighty. Moreover, there was a long and sharp black blade on the left arm of the armor. It emitted an extremely sharp aura that seemed to be able to cut the sky. Chapter 520. Long Yunxiao was wearing the God of War armor and his whole body was tightly protected. No one could tell whether he was injured or not. He stared at Ji Tianxing with cold eyes and said in a low voice, "Ji Tianxing, I haven't seen you for half a year and your strength has grown to such an extent. You really surprised this monarch. However, this monarch will not take it lightly and will never give you another chance." As his voice fell, he turned into a golden streamer, wielding the dragon teeth blade in his left arm and the nine-cloud sword in his right hand. He rushed toward Ji Tianxing as fast as an aurora. Dragon sword and thunder blade, chaotic world's mad martial art. Long Yunxiao let out a sonorous roar and his whole body burst out with a soaring fighting spirit. Dazzling Zidian thunder light gushed out of the dragon teeth blade and condensed into a huge Zidian blade light. The nine-cloud sword burst out with a bright golden light and turned into a 30-meter-long sacred golden dragon. Long Yunxiao obviously used his ultimate move. He held the thunderbolt in his left hand and manipulated the sacred golden dragon in his right hand. He instantly rushed in front of Ji Tianxing. Kill! Following his furious roar, the divine and berserk golden dragon, which seemed to have descended from the heavens, attacked Ji Tianxing from both sides. Suddenly, the entire monarch stage was shrouded in purple thunder light and dazzling golden light. It became dazzling and chaotic. Ji Tianxing's figure was submerged by the thunderbolt and the golden dragon and immediately fell into a dangerous situation. At the critical moment, he put away the black dragon sword without hesitation and spread out a pair of golden wings in front of him to protect himself. Boom! The thunderbolt and the sacred golden dragon fell from the sky and fiercely blasted Ji Tianxing, causing a loud noise that shook the nine heavens. He was blasted back hundreds of meters on the spot. His feet sank deep into the black stone floor before he stopped. The ground where he was originally standing had long been blasted by the thunderbolt and the golden dragon, creating a huge crater with a radius of tens of meters and numerous cracks. The incomparably violent energy formed a half-purple and half-golden shockwave that spread out in all directions and fiercely hit the defensive array of the monarch stage. The deafening sound reverberated on the monarch stage for a long time before dissipating. Long Yunxiao stood in the sky, looking down at Ji Tianxing. Seeing that he wasn't injured, he couldn't help narrowing his eyes. Ji Tianxing, you can actually block this monarch's ultimate move. Now, you are indeed qualified to be this monarch's opponent. Ji Tianxing also flapped his golden wings and stepped into the sky, standing 100 steps away from Long Yunxiao. He calmly looked at Long Yunxiao and coldly said, "Half a year ago that night, I told you that I was going to kill you. So what if he was the emperor? Half a year later, you might not be able to beat me. Today, I will make you recognize yourself and willingly withdraw." As soon as he finished speaking, his entire body ignited with a monstrous golden flame. His body merged with the flame, forming a giant golden sword that was more than 10 meters long. Shua! The huge golden sword carried a sharp power that could destroy everything as it shot towards Long Yunxiao like an aurora. The golden light that burst out from the huge sword formed a huge and incomparably powerful white tiger phantom. The white tiger opened its bloody mouth and stretched out a pair of huge sharp claws. With a violent and murderous momentum, it pounced towards Long Yunxiao. White Tiger's sacred sword. At that moment, the monarch stage was filled with dazzling golden light as sword chi filled the sky. A sacred beast white tiger appeared out of thin air and let out an earth-shattering roar. Below the monarch stage, the hundreds of thousands of people were shocked and astonished. The strength that Ji Tianxing displayed had refreshed everyone's understanding of him again and again. Even the princes in the sky were staring intently at the emperor platform, their hearts filled with anticipation. Long Yunxiao's eyes flashed with graveness and fear. He also went all out to display his ultimate move to block the attack of the white tiger's sacred sword. Moonwalk Qing Tsang, mysterious sky demon suppression. He held the dragon teeth saber in his left hand and the nine-cloud sword in his right hand. A pair of golden wings unfolded behind him as his body burst out with five-colored spiritual light. He waved his saber and sword and slashed out an overwhelming amount of saber light and sword shadows, forming a huge net with a radius of hundreds of meters that enveloped the heaven and earth. It enveloped Ji Tianxing on the spot. In the originally clear sky, dark clouds appeared out of nowhere and hundreds of dazzling purple thunderbolts appeared. Kaboom! Hundreds of thunderbolts, carrying the power to destroy everything, fiercely struck down from the sky and blasted towards the white tiger's sacred sword. At this moment, Long Yunxiao was stepping on the sky and holding the thunderbolts in his hand. He controlled the saber light and sword shadows that covered the sky as if he had the power to control the heaven and earth. He was as majestic as a god. Everyone in the square looked up at him with deep reverence and worship in their hearts. As a martial artist, who didn't want to become a martial arts powerhouse like him, who could control the heaven and earth and thunderbolts and was as majestic and sacred as a god? In the crowd, Ji Ku, Tin, and the Beast King all looked very worried. Their hearts were in their throats as they were nervous for Ji Tianxing. The more than 20 princes in the sky had just witnessed Long Yunxiao's true strength and trump card. They all looked amazed and expectant. At the same time, the saber light, sword net, and thunderbolts all blasted the white tiger's sacred sword. Boom! Boom! An extremely violent sound exploded on the monarch platform, causing the entire platform to tremble. The loud sound could be clearly heard in the area with a radius of dozens of miles. At that moment, the emperor's stage was filled with saber light, sword shadows, and thunderbolts. It became extremely turbid and chaotic. Everyone around the emperor's stage stared at the situation on the stage with their eyes wide open, looking forward to the result. After 10 breaths of time, the reverberating loud sound gradually dissipated. The saber light, sword shadows, and thunderbolts also finally disappeared. Ji Tianxing and Long Yunxiao's figures appeared. They were standing on both sides of the emperor's stage, safe and sound. They looked at each other from hundreds of meters away. Long Yunxiao's ultimate move was indeed powerful. It had defeated Ji Tianxing's white tiger's sacred sword on the spot. However, Ji Tianxing's defense was also very strong. He was not injured by the saber light, sword net, and thunderbolts. He just looked a little pale, his blood and qi were not flowing smoothly, and his true essence was a little shaken. Long Yunxiao frowned and stared at him. After a moment of silence, he said, "If this monarch remembers correctly, you seem to have only mastered the power of metal and fire. Your first move just now actually used the power of ice. Moreover, this monarch's 2 ultimate moves were blocked by you. Ji Tianxing, have you broken through the shackles and reached the sky origin stage?" His tone was dignified and solemn. There was a trace of disbelief in it. Ji Tianxing didn't hide it. He calmly nodded and said, "That's right. Just yesterday." After saying that, his whole body burst out with an incomparably powerful aura. It was as if he could communicate with the heaven and earth and master all things of the 5 elements. That was the aura that only a sky origin stage powerhouse could have. Long Yunxiao's face suddenly changed. His eyes flashed with a touch of astonishment. After a moment, he came back to his senses and revealed a face full of smiles. "In just 2 or 3 months, you actually broke through the shackles and reached the sky origin stage. Very good." It carried a violent power that could destroy the world and went straight for Long Yunxiao. The entire monarch stage was filled with flames. The high temperature seemed to have ignited the air. It was as if a scorching sun had appeared out of nowhere in the originally clear sky. Half of the sky was illuminated with a blood-red hue. Long Yunxiao's pupils shrank as he sensed the terrifying power contained within the giant flaming palm. A look of dread appeared on his face. Without a doubt, the power of this flaming palm was enough to threaten his life. However, his aura was locked on by the giant flaming palm, so he couldn't escape or dodge. At this critical moment, he could only use his secret technique with all his strength to resist the attack of the giant flaming palm. Celestial Shield. The true essence in Long Yunxiao's body surged out like a flood and condensed into a 5-colored light wall in front of him. Although this 5-meter-long and 5-meter-wide spiritual light wall looked only 3 fingers thick, it was formed by his secret technique and had a very strong defense. Just as he condensed the celestial shield, the giant flaming palm had already arrived and slapped the celestial shield. Bang! In the deafening sound, the celestial shield only lasted for a moment before it was smashed into pieces and exploded. However, the giant flaming palm slapped Long Yunxiao and wrapped him up, flying into the sky. Hundreds of meters behind him was the monarch stage's defensive array, the 5-colored light barrier that covered the sky. Boom! The giant flaming palm wrapped around Long Yunxiao and hit the 5-colored light barrier with a destructive force. Suddenly, there was a loud sound that shook the sky. At that moment, the 5-colored light barrier that covered the entire monarch stage began to tremble violently, creating layers upon layers of ripples. In the square with a radius of 10 miles, the hundreds of thousands of people and martial artists were dizzy and their ears were buzzing. The majestic and dignified monarch stage was also shaken to the point of shaking non-stop, and cracks appeared on the ground. The giant flaming palm's power was enough to destroy a 10,000-foot mountain, but it was blocked by the defensive array and exploded into a sea of red fire. The endless sea of red fire turned the entire monarch stage into a sea of fire. Long Yunxiao's figure was also drowned in the sea of red fire and couldn't be seen for a long time. Such an earth-shattering commotion caused the 100,000 people present to be inexplicably shocked. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Countless people looked at the monarch stage in astonishment and exclaimed in disbelief, "Oh my God! Is this the power of a heaven origin expert? The power of that giant flaming palm is too terrifying." Fortunately, there is a defensive array on the monarch stage. Otherwise, that giant flaming palm would have destroyed everything within a radius of 10 miles. I wonder if the Son of Heaven can block such a powerful giant flaming palm. We underestimated that Ji Tianxing too much before. This person is so powerful. No wonder he dares to challenge the Son of Heaven. It's over. I'm afraid the outcome has been decided. The Son of Heaven is going to be defeated. The Son of Heaven is the heir of the imperial court. How noble is his status and talent. He is the #1 genius of the human race. How can he be defeated? Not only were the people on the square shocked, but even the more than 20 princes in the sky were also surprised. Even the strongest and arrogant Murong Lingfeng and Duanwu Yulong looked at Ji Tianxing in a new light. The joy and anticipation in their eyes grew even stronger. This Ji Tianxing is indeed extraordinary. There is a high chance that he can defeat Long Yunxiao. If Ji Tianxing can really defeat Long Yunxiao, I want to see how Long Yunxiao will deal with this. How will he have the face to choose a heavenly concubine? In the lofty pagoda on the south side of the square, the emperor and the imperial tutor had been watching the battle closely. Their expressions had become a little serious. The imperial tutor sighed faintly. I didn't expect that our race would have a genius who can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Son of Heaven. If this person didn't challenge the Son of Heaven, it would be a blessing for our race. It's a pity that this is the first time this person has shown his talent in front of the world. He actually wants to use the Son of Heaven to make a name for himself. The emperor frowned slightly and said in a serious tone, "Based on the strength that this person has shown, he is not any weaker than Yunxiao. I'm afraid it will be difficult for Yunxiao to win today." There are a total of 6 chapters today. There will be another 3 chapters at around 14 p.m. Brothers, please wait patiently. Thank you for your understanding. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.